Notice is hereby given that the Board of Directors of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District of the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado will hold a regular meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, December 13, 2022 at 13919 West Utah Avenue, Lakewood, Colorado, 80228. This meeting will be held for the purpose of conducting such business as may come before the board. This meeting is open to the public. Virtual meeting option. For those who may not be able to attend in person, the district will offer the option of participating in this meeting by video/conference call. To attend, please go to https://us06web.zoom.us/89533225776 or call 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID 895-3322-5776. To troubleshoot issues with the connection at the time of the meeting, please follow the link https://en-us/en-us/sections/200305593-troubleshooting. If you still experience issues, email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org and our IT staff will assist you as soon as possible. The district does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability in the provision of services. People with disabilities needing reasonable accommodation to attend or participate in a district board meeting can call 303-985-1581 or email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org for assistance. Please give notice as far in advance as possible so we may accommodate your request. Agenda item number 1, call to order, declaration of a quorum. Jeff Baker present.
Todd Hooks present.
Dave Wickman here.
Karen Morgan present.
Roger Wendell present.
All directors are present. I declare a quorum. We're going to close agenda item number 1 and move into agenda item number 2, directors matters and disclosure matters. Do the directors have anything to disclose?
No.
Seeing no items, I will close agenda item number 2 and move into agenda item number 3, approval of additions to deletions from the agenda.
Yes, I do, although I hesitate to say because it's already so long, but I would like to move to add item H was the financial planning committee discussion for which I talked about previously and it sent out information for which you should already have.
So it's not on here, is what you're
It
saying.
is not. So can we add item H financial in discussion
mean
directors matters? Item H
Or-
financial planning.
Okay, under H, under directors matters. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to second. Do we have discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The agenda modification moves forward. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Public comments. I'm going to close out agenda item number 3 and go into public comment. For past motion of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Board of Directors, May 11, 2021. Members of the public wishing to address the board during the public comment period are asked to keep the comments civil and related to the items in the agenda or to the conduct of district business. Members of the public wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board to maintain proper decorum. Since Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board values your input, we always offer additional opportunities for the public to provide comments by using the district email system or by phoning into customer service in the event they do not get on during the meeting period set aside for public comment. Do we have anybody in the room wishing to speak? Okay, you're recognized.
Dave McGraw, Terry Larson from Fox Ridge Metro District. We have been informed that the agreement that we've been working with you on is going to be going with for your sanitation services is going to be going backwards. We have been presently on a 5-year plan with you, and we understand that we're going to be going into a 1-year plan. Our concern is our fiduciary responsibilities in representing 1,200 existing homes in Saltaire that are presently using your services and paying for it. is what our explanation should be back to our community. To go from 5 to 1 sort of implies, and this is, you know, in our heads, and, you know, if we're interpreting it wrong, I apologize, but sort of implies we've done something wrong. I mean, we thought we had a good relationship in place. But to go from 5 to 1 would suggest there's something that, you know, we need to correct, or, you know, what do we need to do to explain this to our community? Because they're going to want to know. We need to provide them stability in terms of service. And this suggests that we're now going to go into an annual renewal of some nature, and that is not a stabilization future for us. So anything you could help us with, we'd really appreciate. I mean,
So it is on the agenda tonight, and we will be discussing those, that's one of the items. We'll be ironing that out, and then probably moving forward tonight on that. So if you want to hang around, it's on the agenda item.
right, we've seen it under
Okay.
legal matters, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, if you want to,
And we will do that. Terry is here. Terry's just come out of surgery this week, so he's just being here is something.
we got one of those too.
Oh, okay. I appreciate your time and the opportunity to share that with you, but that is a big concern of ours, is how we communicate this back to our community. I mean, we're paying our bills, I
Understood.
think.
Yeah, we'll get into that later on here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask him a question?
I don't want to have it going on right now, so it's just kind of just public comment, so. Okay, anyone else in the room? No, I have no one else in the room. Anybody online, raise your hand if you wish to address the board. I see nobody raising their hand. I will close public comment. And we are, oh, Dave, you're recognized. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me? I'm guessing you can't hear me.
Hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that it's not, I don't see it on the agenda. If some point somebody could address where we are on exposition. I'm feeling a little left out as your negotiator.
Yeah, I don't see it on the agenda either.
It's under 7C.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. Election
Okay.
sewer pipe cabling bids.
All right.
7C under capital and construction.
Yeah, it's not labeled or titled as exposition, but agenda item 7, subset C is addressing the exposition job.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that.
You bet. Anything else, Dave? Okay. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay, going and gone. I will close public comment. Agenda item number 5, we have no minutes currently available. So we will jump over to agenda item number 6, to district manager report.
Okay, district manager report, I sent it out and, it has some pretty good end of the year recognitions, good dashboards. We didn't have any water main breaks. And what I really wanted to do is introduce Mandy from JVA. So JVA Engineering, we've been meeting with them bi-weekly on projects. First kickoff project is wastewater sewer collection modeling, giving them all the data information they need to model the collection system, and also putting together proposed flow studies, and also preparing for 2023 capital projects. So Mandy, if you could just give us if you don't mind, okay, if Mandy just tells us about JVA.
Absolutely.
Great, well, thanks Jeff for inviting us down. I'm Mandy Rasmussen. I'm a senior project manager at JVA and also the regional manager of our Fort Collins office. We have 5 offices at JVA, all in Colorado, headquarters in Boulder, and then offices in Denver, Fort Collins, Plymouth Springs, and Winter Park. So we have folks that work. We started as a structural engineering firm, and then also have civil engineering, and then we're part of environmental, which is what will mostly support you with water and sewer services. I also manage what we call utility network services, which I think ties really well with the district, where we have team members that get involved with treatment and that, but we also have a group that just focuses on pipelines and asset management and supporting capital improvement plans and how to pay for projects and how to design them and go out to bid and all those things. So met with Jeff and Sam and Jeff for that kickoff meeting and went well. Karen was able to join. We talked more just seeing how to, kind of some of the issues the board's going through. And seemed like a good fit where we can support you all with the next year of design.
Well, welcome aboard. We appreciate you stopping in.
Yeah, of course. Great. Anything else, Jeff, or?
No, anybody has any questions for Mandy and we could let her go. Well, you can stick around for
I'll stay,
the
yeah,
capital and construction projects.
yeah.
Can you tell me how it's going so far? How do you find this? Because we kind of carved out a piece of wastewater and then sometimes everything integrates. Is it okay? How is the?
No, it's been great. So both Merrick and JVA are on the bi-weekly meeting now. JVA has the sewer model, so we're getting up to speed on what all is in there. We wrote, we had one proposal, I know you all saw, one sewer study using that model. So we're happy to help with those types of development review analysis specific for, the impact of one development. And then we've been talking about the different capital projects you have planned for that'll be approved tonight for 2023 and how we can support with getting them built, designed and built. So been great communication with Sam, sending information. We're very impressed with the level of detail you have in your GIS already. That does, as an engineer, we love more data and more information, more the better. So we're thrilled to support the district.
Hasn't been a hard, we're finding any gaps in this transition process for that, anything that we can help with?
Not yet, Jeff's quick to send emails and schedule meetings and it's been great. And using your OWL and Zoom to be able to coordinate. I'm in Fort Collins, but we have team members, in each of the offices. So, especially, for site visits, we'll draw on people that are in Denver, so much closer. And to save for you, but we all work across offices, so we're used to this type of communication.
They asked about the site visits. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Mandy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's it for the district manager report. If anybody has any questions, we kept it short and simple.
Thank you. Okay, you got capital and construction projects, so agenda item number 7.
Yeah, so the first one A is we're making a good effort to polish the project construction report spreadsheet, and we're gonna include on there, dates of board approval, and other milestones of dates, design, when it was designed, everything from quality control, quality assurance check sheets. So everything's on that spreadsheet. We'll keep adding to it. And we'll keep you updated probably every 2 weeks. That way you don't have to, especially if when we go into 2023, we want to move faster on these capital projects. So like I said, we're meeting with JVA bi-weekly. We're going to start meeting with HDR too, and we'll full steam ahead on some of these. And also we're looking at construction management way, JVA does construction management and other organizations do construction management, and we'll include it in the overall approved budget. That way we can move quicker and faster on projects.
So Jeff, this would be a good place to put the or it's a big facility. We're trying to develop a facility condition assessment report. We're trying to build that algorithm
Yes,
right now.
I know. Yeah.
So and I want that to be, this will all be part of an algorithm here. So it'll all, in my opinion, be logical. So we're trying to get that thing off the ground right now. So
Yeah, Sam's working super hard on it and has already got Mandy involved on the actual industry standards for piping. So we're all working on that spreadsheet.
nice, thank you.
And then any other questions on the spreadsheet? I can move to the first project. I know a lot of people are probably excited to get to the bidding projects, but so let's talk a little bit about Bear Creek Golf Course. So The contractor, America West, is mobilizing in January. They're a little bit behind schedule due to supply chain issues and labor shortages, so they're mobilizing their equipment and the cure in place piping in January. So we're hoping they'd be mobilized in November. So that's all set up and
So we're running about 6 weeks behind then, is that what they're running behind?
yes.
Thank you.
And then, so the next one's a big one with the, so brief history of the next one is the sewer line off of Kipling and Alameda was identified as being over capacity. We had new development going in, so we put together bids, went out to bid. I know a lot of people are here for the bid opening, so we have 4 sealed bids and Director Hooks has them, and so he'll start looking at the 4 sealed bids from.
So for people in the public or that aren't used to seeing this, do you want to explain what we're doing here with doing the sealed bids opening and the.
Yeah, so these bids are construction bids for an engineering project, and so under rules, we post bids in newspapers and on BidNet, you know, based on our standard operating procedures, and make sure we follow all the rules and regs. And then these bids are sent to us either in sealed envelopes or if they're emailed, we put them in sealed envelope. And then we have a bid opening, and sometimes in the past, you'd have a bid opening with the engineering organization during the day, but we're having it now with the board meeting because this is a critical bid for sewer capacity issues on Kipling and Alameda. So that's why we're having a public opening of the sealed bids from 4 different construction buildings.
Okay.
Don't be nervous, Tom.
Or should I be?
It's like opening Academy Awards.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, but now see, you gotta find the actual amount. Right?
What should be a summary page?
A very critical though, let me say is, even though we're identifying the lowest bid, we still have to go through a critical check process to make sure all of the requirements are met for the bid also. So tonight's not necessarily awarding the bid, it's gonna identify the lowest bid, and then we're gonna say, okay, we gotta make sure all, you know, the i's are dotted, the t's are crossed and all that.
Okay,
And how would
so
we cure that? Would we go to the next bid, or would we give them an opportunity to dot those Ts and or dot the Is?
I have to refer to Dylan.
Yeah, so typically the RFPs state that irregularities or mistakes can be waived in the discretion of the board. If they're substantive, it's probably disqualifying.
Thank you.
okay, so the first bid we opened is from American Engineering. Their total bid came in at $442,568.
What was that name again?
American Engineering,
That was 442-568.
yes.
On the outside.
Is this all part, hang on, is this all part of it here?
Well, I think this is our summary of what we sent them. But then you get back here. So like this is American West, it tells you on the last bid page. Or doesn't this, the firm's name?
So this is all one, I'm just kidding. Okay, this is all one.
Yeah,
Okay,
you have the first one from them.
so this is Bramman Sand and Gravel. And their bid came in at, sorry, I'm kind of having to shuffle back and forth here.
Okay, how you spell that, Brandon? What?
I think it's BRANNAN.
BRANNAN, Brandon.
Sand and gravel.
The final words of it. Oh, I'm sorry. And their bid total came in at $410,995,000. God made me that way because I'm not supposed to spend that much or get that much. It's a built-in self-defense mechanism.
So this is American West.
Okay, this came in from American West.
Yep.
And their total bid came in at $554,110.
Okay. So this is Bear Excavating.
Okay, so Bear Excavating, their bid came in at $450,598.65.
That would go on top of that.
Okay, so Jeff, you're gonna have to walk us through this. So now we have a low bid, correct?
Yeah, so a little bit, everybody heard Brandon 410, so it's a good thing all the bids were pretty close. And we'll make it a point to get with the people involved, with the design firm and legal to make sure everything's checked off and then award that to them if everything checks. Sound good, Dylan?
That should be a decision of the board, but yes, whatever the board would like to do, the formalities of the bid process need to be followed. So, for example, you do not have to take the low bid if there are, reasons involved in the entire bid process that would lead you to believe that there is greater value in a higher price bid than the lowest. You can go for that. You need some articulable reason for that.
Like if they
decision.
potentially left out a service or.
Certainly that, or
Right.
in this particular instance, Merrick is the second lowest.
Right.
If, for example, we've worked with Merrick for 40 years, we believe that the value added of that relationship
Right.
is worth the additional 30,000. That would be an articulable reason, even if the
Gotcha.
bids were otherwise identical.
Okay,
Or Brandon is located in Lakewood, so we appreciate that they're here.
right, they're the closest
Or
for
whatever.
potential. Okay,
Yeah, so the board needs to make the decision of which bid to accept, and then we'll complete the process of reviewing them. If the board's decision is flawed in some way, like the bid wasn't submitted with a bond, we would bring it back to the board for a decision on that issue.
Do I need a motion for that?
Someone does.
Okay, so first, okay, I'm gonna make a motion to accept the low bid. With if there's an exception with our district manager, or, any follow-on items. Does that sound reasonable? Yep. So there's my motion.
I will second it.
We have a second, now we have discussion.
Yeah, this is first time I've done it like this, or, does this have to be because you're from Brandon, aren't you?
Correct.
Okay, does this have to be executive session or?
No.
It actually, the decision itself has to be in public. The discussion. I'm not sure that there's a statutory category under which we could go into executive session on this.
Maybe negotiation.
Just hypothetically, if we thought all the bids were exorbitant, would we have to take any of them?
No, you can reject any and all bids.
And that does happen.
Yeah. Especially these days.
And, yeah. Thank you. I'm not implying they're exorbitant. I don't know enough about these large numbers to comment, but.
Well, so that's why I put in there with the exception of Jeff, so I wanted to have him. He can input into this right now, so that's why I added you into the motion, so if you have. A voice in this at this time, we just saw the board sees the bottom line. And then we're gonna need your input if there's any input at this time into any of the,
At this time, it's very safe to, look, Brandon has great credibility and all of our quality control checks on the request for bids were implemented. So all these bids are from great organizations, great construction firms who are very excited to come to work. And so, you know, if for some reason, we always have the option if something is different as we do the more in-depth research to go back to the board and say, hey, this one didn't pan out, but it has good credibility at the present time. So.
Another question. What are the criterias in the decision? Anything other than just these prices? And the reason I asked, it's starting to come back to me. When I was on the fire board, we were always buying super engines for $1 million. And we'd have a company come in that would be lower and then one that was higher. And our staff that was in charge of rebuilding these things and repairing them and stuff like that were real insistent upon, this was the company we worked with for 20 years. We know their stuff and we really want their stuff. And they came to the board and said, you know, this is really important to us. And we would choose them as opposed to low bidder financially. So again, I'm like, what is the criteria here? This is my first time.
All the criteria is posted on BidNet, so they have to fit that criteria. And since we haven't read the details of their bids yet, we suspect all the criteria was met because it was posted on BidNet.
And you just got finished saying, you know, all the companies, you've worked all the companies. They're all
Yeah, I don't know them in depthly, but they all have great reputations. And so, you know, you can imagine we're working with America West right now, even though they're the highest bidder, but.
So if they meet the criterias in there, they're not disqualified, then we're gonna go with the low number.
You don't have to, you can. You don't
Like,
have,
that's your vote. If you were to choose, like, under your scenario, if you like an engine better, you can choose that better. So if you like ABC company better than XYZ, you can basically.
Or like in our case, when the management came in and said, well, we recommend something like else.
Right.
And again, I'm back to, I don't care. Are there any other factors at play here that, part of our decision making?
Well, that's why, you know, this is new, but that's why I've deferred to our manager and our staff. You know, the motion was for the lowest bid, so if anybody has other things they're concerned about, now's the time to speak, you know, because we're gonna vote on the low bid with the manager's input.
and you don't have to accept a bid tonight. If you can, you don't have to. If you want to sit with the bids for a week and have a special meeting to make the formal acceptance, that's. Or two weeks, whatever, your options are, your discretion's a lot.
I personally don't know any of them. I don't have any feelings, so I'm kind of going with the flow here, but like I said, being my first time, I just want to make sure we're covering all our possibilities.
I think this is, to be clear, this is everybody's first time on this. This is new procedures that former Director Peters and I put in place when we did the bylaw update. So we have not done this formal process before. For myself, I would not feel comfortable accepting the lowest bid without reading qualifications and what they're doing. And I know everybody checks boxes. But I wouldn't be able to say I would accept one or the other. I would like to read and see who has more experience here and how they are proposing to do things, and there will be more in-depth besides the basic qualifications. There's always distinguishing factors, but I haven't read it, so I wouldn't know.
So how are we gonna delineate that? Are you wanting a special meeting then? You're gonna run a thing where you're gonna categorize what you consider, how you're gonna down select this?
I would not need to do that for you, but I'm saying there are other things that I would look at besides just being the lowest bid, and I'm sure Mr. Tice would have the same thing when he read it.
Oh,
You
yeah,
have-
for sure.
You have criteria that you find when you're reading them, and
I just scan them all in and email them to everybody. But we're gonna do quality control, quality assurance on them now, you know.
yeah. And
Can we approve the lowest bid, but with the caveat, if there's some kind of error, we can withdraw that?
No, I'd have to withdraw the motion.
Well,
No, I mean, if we approve it. you know,
so yeah, that's built into it,
Okay,
basically. Like you're not gonna be bound by the acceptance of the bid if there is some substantive flaw in the bid, like I was mentioning earlier. I understand what you're saying about.
Well, but I hadn't said that with that caveat and with the district manager opinion.
Well, if there's a disqualifying thing, that's disqualifying. What if, like, for instance, Karen looks at it and, you know, being the engineer, she kind of sees things and so she's exercising good judgment.
Sure.
And a good judgment leans one way versus another.
Sure.
Can we take that into account? Yep. And how do we do that?
It's based on the sum of your whole, Dave.
I mean, like Roger said, can we make like a contingent or a tentative approval tonight? Contingent upon Karen and Jeff doing they're good to go. I mean,
I think that that's probably permissible, but I really would recommend against that sort of, because you're gonna put somebody on the road to getting this project underway and without really knowing that they are going for the project. And especially in this climate, I think that would be hard on the contractor.
okay.
I think a week of not mobilizing is better than a week of mobilizing and then
Oh,
shutting it down.
so would you recommend we put it off for a week or?
I think the prudent thing would be for the directors to take the bids, review them, and come back and make a decision.
So we're talking about a special meeting.
Yes. And I would recommend that it be like 10 minutes.
A 10-minute special.
Or however long it takes for the directors to discuss.
How many of these meetings have you been in?
Well, next,
Do you remember the last one?
if it's next
It was like an
Tuesday,
hour,
if
and
it's
it was like-
next, if it's
it was
next
like
Tuesday,
midnight.
I'm not gonna be
It
here.
was like
I will
midnight.
assure you. Next Tuesday, I will not
I
be
do,
here.
so in future, my recommendation would be the bid opening be the special meeting where you just do that one part where you take down the numbers and then you do this at the next regular meeting. But that's a forward-looking recommendation.
But I'd like to repeat it. To me, it looks like there's a fail-safe mechanism in this. Plus, I'm growing to trust Mr. Tyus's judgment. And I don't want to put words into his mouth, but he seems comfortable with this particular company. I say we move forward. I did have another question, though. Is there a threshold where we decide to open these publicly as opposed to just Mr. Tyus doing this? Like
Yeah.
like 100,000?
It's 60.
Oh, 60,000.
Yeah, and that's statutory and in the bylaws.
We put that in our bylaws, so.
Oh, I read the bylaws.
Every night.
My next question is on the matter of timing, because one, if we put like you said, things may get rolling. We wanted to see this project is contingent on getting an agreement going on exposition, right?
Yep.
So
Which is what I was gonna ask, and we got this.
there's
cleared up.
nothing there, so.
They have asked the status of the bids and I told them that the bid opening is tonight. So that's the status of that portion of this.
They were always wanting to know what they're on the hook for, and we never told them.
Right,
They
because we
tell-
gave them estimates, and this is, I believe, under the estimate.
It's under the estimate.
However, I would not feel comfortable accepting any kind of move forward until we have an agreement in place, because this was not being done for the district. It was only being done for the developer. At this point.
I don't have any idea what the
Do we
turnaround
have-
on that would be.
Okay, so if we do not, what are the limits of how far we can push out accepting of it?
Oh, indefinite. I don't remember offhand from the
don't
RFP what
remember
the 45 days, maybe 45 days for the stay, basically.
What if we just had a special meeting Thursday?
Yeah, you know what, I don't like
Honestly,
that everything
because
slips
the
in
end of
here.
the year,
We
it
get
goes,
so much slippage, you know, myself, I think we should have this done by Thursday night. I know we got Dave on the line, you reach out to Exposition. Here's what we're looking at the low bid, are you in or not? It's a yes or no,
Okay.
and then if they're good, we come back Thursday night. Hopefully, all the directors will have done their homework, we come in, special meeting, and we make the down selection Thursday night.
I think that'd be fine.
Okay, now do I have to withdraw my motion or remotion?
Yeah.
Damn it.
I mean.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
Yeah.
I'm going to re-motion. Well, I don't motion anyway, at this point, so we will, I propose a special meeting for this Thursday. The information will be sent out on all the contractors, to all the directors. You're reaching out with Dave Garner to Exposition, it's a yes or a no. They need to tell us, I mean, their drop dead thing will be 12 noon Thursday, we need an answer. If they are not on board, Dylan, this exposition thing needs to just drop then. They're like, we've done all this heavy lifting now for them. That's it.
Okay. Can I ask Mr. Garner if he's still online, if that sounds good to him, since we're driving him in? Anything else?
Dave, unmute, please. Dave Garner.
Yeah, I think I'm back on. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me.
We need you and I need you and Karen to go talk to the people on the exposition project. And I need a yes or no answer. We have the bids in. Right now, we have a low bid that we're looking at $410,000. If they are in or not, and we need to know by 12 noon Thursday, because we're gonna schedule a special meeting Thursday evening to accept the bids. We're gonna review the bids. Directors will review the bids. We need an answer from exposition if they're a go or a no-go.
Understand all of that. What I was really concerned about was whether or not Dylan had had any more conversations with the attorney for the exposition project.
Only as to when the bids would be open, and I'm going to send them the bid numbers right now.
Okay, so they came back with nothing in terms of the position on the agreement.
Right, there was no substantive conversation about the agreement after asking what the bids were. Their expectation was that they would receive numbers back in November.
Okay. I'm not terribly comfortable with putting the cart before the horse here, but we can make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Another question on Thursday's meeting, would these companies, Brandon and or these other three be at that meeting, or
It's their option.
It'll be a public meeting.
so any or all four could come to the meeting?
It's their option.
Just, I mean, they could have come tonight. Terry's here and.
I don't want to be here another 6 hours.
Brandon's here right here if you want to ask him anything.
Is 2 days enough public notice for this kind of meeting?
Yes. Yes,
Why is that?
it's the law.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 24 hours.
We do it Wednesday night, but we're gonna need to heal up from this thing, so. I'm cracking that whip, man. I'm gonna make this all time bound going forward. I'm gonna make sure I get a time mark on everything.
Well, I'm open Christmas Day. I don't have any plans.
Well,
I got plans for you.
do you want
I got 4,000 feet of driveway now, and I want something done with it.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'll have cookies and hot cocoa, Dave. All right. Any further discussion on this? I have withdrawn the bid. Okay,
you mean
I have withdrawn the motion.
Thank you.
Those of you out in the audience, we will be in here I'll put it at the end of the meeting. It'll be 6 p.m. Thursday night. With the
What do you mean it'll be at
definitive,
the end of the meeting?
that's when you schedule new meetings.
Oh, I thought you meaning that our meeting, that was going to be the end when we tell them. I think it should be. the
Agenda
beginning.
item number 12, new business and
Right.
notifications.
That should be our only thing in this meeting.
Right there.
I've got holiday functions, buddy.
Got stuff for you and Dave. Santa's helpers. All right. So we'll post that up, but it'll be Thursday night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Okay, Jeff, we're on,
Yes, Ravines Open Space Crossing. So the status of that is, so just a quick review. I know it's been going on for 4 years. And so what you have is, everybody is familiar with Ravines Open Space, and there's 3 crossings down there. 2 of the crossings date way back to the 60s, as everybody knows, and the middle one, we call it the middle one, is eroding. So the priority is, hey, we have to support the middle one with pylons and stability. And then we want to barricade all 3 of them. So there's like one we call in the middle, then there's one kind of like west of it, and then there's one northwest. So the big pushback, we're working with the city of Lakewood, city of Lakewood even called me today. They really don't want the northwest barricaded. That's always been the pushback, I guess, for years now. So I just say, okay, I relay it to the board, but right now it's on,
So they're willing to pay to stabilize that?
No, it's, wait, hold on, it's not negotiable, it's not a damn bridge.
yeah, well, see, remember, the northwest one isn't on the one for, so the most critical one for stability and pylons is the center one. That's the one with all the erosion. And it's, it dates back to like 1961, the center one and the one just, I want to say southwest of it, but the northwest one is newer. I don't know the exact date. There's not much paperwork out there on it. And that one has a water and sewer pipe under it. It's built differently. And that's the one I told, City of Lakewood's called me a few times on this. And as I said, well, I'll keep passing to the board, but right now it's on approval to support the center one and blockade all three of them on both sides.
I think we stay where we're at on that. These are not bridges. I don't care what Lakewood says. They're not bridges. They're not man bridges, so.
Well, question,
Lakewood said it was.
this is city property?
No. It's our pipes with our pipe.
Well, I know, but who owns land underneath it?
City of Lakewood.
City of Lakewood.
Okay, well, the reason I asked is, do they have the legal right to tell us what can or cannot be put up in the way of signs?
Well, they do.
Well, if it's on their land, if it's in your easement. Maybe not, but if it's just on their real property, if it's on your structure, no, probably no.
Oh,
Yeah, the barricades will be built upon our structure.
okay, never mind. That was a question.
Well, I know what they're trying to do because they're getting a lot of heat because, in their infamous failure to do their own research as they threw us under the bus with this. It's like, oh crap, these aren't bridges, they're pipe hangers. I'm gonna stick with that. There never were bridges. They're not bridges now. They're not gonna be bridges in the future. If Lakewood wants to build a bridge, reach out to Merrick or JBA, get a structural engineer and make a legal man bridge for that area. Until then, it's a pipe hanger. We will not have pedestrians on it because it's a legal liability.
Well, my concern was whether they're gonna play some sort of game.
Of course they are, and I don't care. I don't care. It's like, what are you gonna tell me?
Well, what I was looking for is, could they legally come in and say, we own the land, we can go to a court, and court tell us for the damn sign down? I mean, can they make us do things?
Well, I guess if they can take full liability for everything.
Well, there's the utility, there's utility access, and we got an engineer in here, and that's probably in Mandy's world, but you have to have utility easements. Everybody has them. Everybody has to honor the utility easements, correct? Basically, that's the construct, or that's the agreement everyone has.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense to me. If we have an easement, I think that gives us the right to do things. Or if we didn't, I think they could sit there and say, I'm the landowner, I decide.
well, Karen worked this with Terry Kenyon back there when we were talking about easements, looking to do some other things if we were gonna reroute it, so. We do have easement through that area, so I am not moving on this, me personally at all. Year 4, I'm out of patience with this.
If they want to call it a bridge, we'll call all of them a bridge and they can go back to the beginning of that this was their bridge for a perk and that's.
Well,
See,
then,
that's what I'm saying. If they want to take full responsibility and repair them all and take all liability,
and redesign it and engineer it.
yeah, I'm good with
That-
that.
that-
Because that takes all the money off of our back.
That $500,000
But if that's
bridge will
not-
then go to a $2 million bridge overnight easily.
And tell them they can put up Christmas decorations, like we did on the bridge over 6th Avenue. The RTD bridge.
So what do we do if they, since they are holding up the permit to work in the area because they want access to our bridge?
Keep talking. I mean,
What happens if something, see, my problem with what they're doing, we talk about safety first. Everyone talks about that and what's safe for everybody. When we've been trying to do the right thing with the city of Lakewood dragging their feet. I'm telling you, anybody in this room right now, if we were like Jeff and Jeff contractor, and we were putting up that sign, could go down tomorrow, get the damn permit and start working on that.
Yeah.
Tell me, why is it a problem now? Why are they slow walking this? And that's what I probably, whoever we need to ask, we need to ask them, why are you slow walking this thing? Because if somebody gets hurt or killed, we should have some sort of a contingency. It's like, you guys, we were trying to warn everybody and now something's happened. What are you gonna do about it now? We're trying to do the right thing. You guys are slow walking.
I like that contributory negligence.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I mean, if you get sued, that's where you go.
Right,
And we can't fix that middle one without going through this process. And that was declared an emergency 4 years ago. So what are we supposed to do with this? If it's not ours to fix and put up barricades, I mean, they can't make the argument that one is our bridge and one isn't. What are we supposed to do here? That
I
is an
think that,
emergency
I will go, I
situation.
mean, if they wanna play it off on us, I would agree with Jeff that. Then they can put up they can hire they can hire someone that puts literally in a bridge, a true pedestrian bridge.
Sell it to them.
Oh, no, because we did that over here with the Morrison Bridge that Lakewood spent $8 million on, so. And we're not doing that. That's kind of like the thing on exposition. You give us some money and then we'll do it. We can do that. But I'm not gonna move forward and we'll do it and then hope you pay us.
Yeah.
That ain't happening.
I don't have an answer for you. I can look into it, but I don't have a good answer for you right now.
Looking
We
into
need to really
this,
stiffen our
but-
legal back on this, because, God forbid something happens over there. I mean. Look, these were the people that kicked the dust up on this. Everyone was status quo, right? They were fine. They were the ones that, elevated all this stuff, not us. We're just following the city's direction. Well, we have been doing this for 4 years now.
It needs to escalate.
It definitely needs to escalate.
Jeff, Jeff Tyus, do you have any correspondence in writing with them? Would it be pertinent for me?
No, I do not. They just call me on the phone all the time, so,
Shocking.
but yeah, exactly. But I will send an email with, both Merrick and you and I, because Merrick might have more correspondence with them over the last, because they've been working on this last year
Right.
and the year before, so this has been going on for years, so I'll just send a blanket email out to get the ball rolling.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And I have a bunch of contact names from Lakewood.
I'd like to specify that we're open to any solutions that you create. We've obviously run into both.
We even looked at the DEFCON 4 thing of ripping out all of the pipe hangers and just putting everything underground. So Karen and Terry did the due diligence. We looked at alternative.
No way to do that.
There's no reason, there's no good way to do that.
Yeah.
So we've done all of our homework here. I do want something out to go legally, we're exposed to liability now, and we have been trying to move forward, at least to warn people. How long have we been doing this now? 6 months?
well, as long as I've been on board.
At least they had those projects.
Yeah, someone, God forbid something happens to somebody. And then we're all hanging out here because Lakewood doesn't know what they're doing.
We need to fix that center bridge. That's where it all started.
Well, we're working.
I know, I got you.
Okay, anything else on that, Jeff? Now that you picked up the first bee's nest?
Yes, so remember, it's important to know that we'll support the center bridge first before we put the barricades in.
No, the barricades need to go in, number one.
Well, the only reason we say it because the construction crew, when they put the supports under the center one, they gotta go back and forth, so they'll have to, they can't go back and forth when they're if the barricades are in place. Does that make sense?
Yes, but the other two bridges could be barricaded up immediately because
Okay,
they don't have construction on it.
no problem.
So that could be started as soon as Lakewood says.
Okay,
And we're just looking for access, right? Because
No problem. We'll make it happen.
you can even put those things in where they tack weld them, and then when they come, they can just grind out the tack weld and slide the
it's
barricade
true.
out.
Do we need
Send it off to the side and then,
All
until
right,
it's done.
simplified barricade.
Yep. Anything else on
Well,
Ravine
no,
Bridge? Yes.
I'm hesitant to put weird things out, sometimes creative thinking. Lakewood does technically have an engineering division with people that do maintenance and what do you call them, blue collar people and stuff like that.
Oh, workers?
Workers, that's the word. I don't think they could actually do this, I mean, theoretically.
What's in your comment? Is that got Bailey's Irish Creamer? Because I did want some tonight.
Just an idea. Well, something for them to do over the weekend.
Wow, they could have been gauged on any of this. They, like I said, they were the ones with their keen eyes that brought this to our staff's attention, right? We would have been fine. We would have kept going down the road. Lakewood has run everything up the flagpole 100 times. And now it's my turn to run it up the flagpole. We've done our due diligence. What are you slow walking this for? Let's go. Before somebody gets hurt.
Anyway, just think it out.
Okay. All right. Chad, you've got number 8. We're under agenda item 8, financial matters.
Well, I have reviewed all the financial records and the unaudited financial statements and all the investment reports, and they all look good to me. So I would make a motion that we accept the November, December operation expenses, capital expenditures, and the unaudited financial statements and investment reports.
Okay.
We have a second discussion. No discussion. All in favor of passing the budget, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The budgets are.
Well, that's not the
Yeah, it
budget.
wasn't the budget.
I'm sorry, the
I know. what you mean.
We're just doing
monthly
expenses.
expenses. Monthly expenses.
Yes.
Right.
We know what you mean. Did you get that on the recording?
Talk to the L, Dave. Okay. Now we have the audit engagement letter.
Yeah, Doug asked if Director Hooks could review that and sign it. If you want more time to review it, you have more time, so.
I'll just go over it right now.
Who's the auditor?
That's our,
Crady, Puka and Associates. They're the same
that's our
group that's
auditor.
been here for a
Yeah.
number of years.
Now, I'm not suggesting it now, but is there some sort of schedule, like every 5 years we put it out for bid or something like that? We periodically look at considering the new auditor. I'm not suggesting it now, but
No, but you know what, when we're trying to, like, we're gonna have this Kaizen event coming up and everything should be reviewed annually. You should do performance reviews on everything. And see if you're happy or you're
well,
not happy.
at the city, we bidded the auditor out every 5 years. So that way you weren't doing it all the time, but on the other hand, it wasn't like forever job.
Yeah, we're aware of that. And I agree with you, Dave. The next agenda item is discussion and approval of the 2023 draft budget version 2.2. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a motion to approve the budget 2023 annual budget version 2.2.
I will second
I have a
that.
second. Now we will have discussion over the budget.
I'm okay. I know, I mean, we received that email from the one gal that was really concerned that we had supposedly, I guess, let things get out of control by wanting to expend money on capital expenditures and some other things. And personally, I think we've not spent enough money repairing things for capital expenditures. And unfortunately, our increases have to reflect, that we have to build a base for current repairs and future repairs that they have not done in the past. And so I guess the time has come that we're paying the piper, and I understand that it's not good economic times and that people are paying higher for everything, utility, groceries, pick something. Unfortunately, to best safeguard the district as a whole, I mean, I think we need the reserves in order to do that. And so, I mean, the budget, we can always spend less than the budget, or if we have to go in and adjust the budget, we can on a line item basis. So from my perspective, I think it's more than reasonable. And it's probably not the most popular, but unfortunately at the time, I think it's our best course of action.
Well, we talked about that and it was a very conservative estimate on what we would be doing annually to replace the infrastructure. And even that is probably way too optimistic. And you will end up in a situation like Westminster or some of these other places or Arvada, you delay these projects too long. And you will get into recalls and lawsuits like you've never seen. Just ask them. Cause yeah,
Yeah, if I could weigh in on this same topic, and I'm hesitant on the one hand, I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse. And it's like, at some point, get over yourself, Dave. But on the other hand, it really kind of concerns me. And I know we talked about different versions of how much to put into the reserves. I think right now we're talking about 40 cents. And one of the versions, I don't know, is 2 or 3 or whatever, we looked at 90 cents. And that got to be kind of high. So kind of wondering, can we kind of 50 cents difference between that 40 cents and 90 cents? I was wondering if we can kind of split the difference and maybe do, 65 cents or 70 cents or something. So I want to make more of a contribution to reserves than what we're doing now. I think our contribution is too low. I know people don't want higher rates, and I don't either. But on the other hand, like I said, I don't.
remember we were talking about a baby bite on the first one.
And
And just, I'm gonna put this out to the public as we were talking about the project planning sheet, just so the public understands. We have $80.5 million in capital expenditures that we're aware of now. And our current burn rate is around 5 million, 4 to 5 million a year.
Yes,
So do the math on $80 million.
1405, but the invoices for
So
1450.
that's why, we're gonna be looking at other things. We've been trying to work all these different issues. But that's the reality. This is what we've been trying to get to for all these years. So we're looking at $80.5 million in having to develop or replace capital replacement to that magnitude. And if we're only doing 4 to 5 million a year, that's a lot of years. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll be gone by then, but
I hear Director Whitman trying to help that problem though. Can I ask a question? It's my impression that we cannot pass a budget that has not been presented, so I don't know, we don't have all the full numbers to say, let's do a 65 cents. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's probably an open question as far as I'm concerned, but as far as pragmatically, yeah, that would be kind of nightmarish to make that change.
To try and say, this is our budget when we're working on it.
Right.
Well, that's part of all this Kaizen event. It's gonna look at all this because it just came at us. It's like fire hoses, right? One big shotgun to the face, and the Kaizen event will break down all this stuff, and everything should be siloed where you can look at it monthly and then look at it annually, and it should be at a director level dashboard that you're very aware of where you're at financially in each one of these silos. And that allows us to kind of focus on this over the year and address that in on a separate, probably special meeting, which we keep talking about, but that's absolutely what needs to happen.
well, and I recognize back, we've had several meetings on this, and this has kind of been like a big issue. And we have tried and tried and tried. And so, I can't fault this on that. But at the end of the day, you gotta make a compromise, but.
Well, we've got some other folks, we're gonna be looking at stuff a lot harder and coming up with a plan. But like I said, we had to come up with something which we really didn't find. I mean, we finally got a number, 80.5 million. That's what we're seeing right now. And how are we gonna address that? And that's why you gotta have the addition of the FICA plan to put your, age and risk and all kinds of factors to prioritize those things. You gotta re-rack and stack those things. And yeah, obviously, we're never gonna have, we have 20 point some million in the bank, so we're, 60 million outstanding that we're gonna have to account for. We need to know in how many years. That's why we're gonna need these engineering houses. What do we have to do in a certain amount of time? What do we need to start coming up with a plan for?
So I would support your idea,
another
because I
question,
of course had the higher estimate, so I would support that in future.
So we have these
Process
two invoices
such
announced,
that
and then on the second one,
If it comes up.
he took what
in
we
regard to
paid,
that
but then he
discussion,
subtracted and came out to another
you
number,
can
but I
ask
didn't know
for
if that
preparation
actually
of
affects
draft
this.
and
Okay.
the numbers.
I'll do, I get back.
If you just ask him.
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask, I would like, we did circulate that project planning, Director Baker is talking about that came up with a complete
It's on the agenda.
pulled the, well, this is, no, is it? Because this is different.
Yeah, we have the Kaizen events on their, directors matter subsection F.
For the Kaizen?
Yep.
Yeah, I would like my suggestion is to put this plan as an appendix to the budget. So that people can see that that's a reason that we are planning for the rate increases.
I don't think we need to. We can just add that. It doesn't have to be motioned in.
Yeah,
So,
Does not,
okay,
I maybe don't include it with the submission to DOLA. Put it on the website, that's fine.
okay.
do we have any further discussion on this at this time? All in favor?
Let me make a statement. On the one hand, we gotta do what we gotta do. I don't fault us for the situation. But on the other hand, I go back to, by voting for it, does that mean that I like everything going on here? As opposed to making a statement that I wish we had raised the rates a little higher. And so if I voted no, because I wish the rates had been raised, is that acceptable or?
Yes,
You know, you've heard of Pareto, right? You're never gonna be 100%. I think if you're in the 80 percentile or greater, you go with that. And you know what, you're never gonna be 100%. And to the board's credit and the staffs, we're cognizant of these other shortfalls. But have we got better numbers? Have we optimized everything? No. You know what, this is something that we're trying to compress it to a better process than it was. And we're getting there, but we're not there now. So even you saying that right now, based on what? I mean, yeah, we know that, and it's probably gonna happen, but I think we need to come up with a better overall plan. Because otherwise, you're just kind of like, you're just throwing stuff at the wall. It's like, yeah, we'll increase this. You know, we do this with tap fees, but there's got to be a big strategic plan going forward that's going to address all of that. Right? And we're going to know what we're gonna need to know.
Well, if I were to vote no, it'd still pass 4-1, right?
I don't know.
you always have that option. I mean, never feel like you can't vote what
Yeah.
you feel.
You're
You can vote the way you feel.
representative government. All of us could vote no.
Well, if it was a matter of I was stopping it, I wouldn't stop it. If it was a matter of making a protest or a statement, you know, I didn't know to do that. Sometimes
It makes you feel good. All right, anything else? Okay, all in favor of the approving the 2023 budget version 2.2, say aye. Aye, we have 4 ayes, all against, say nay. We have 1 nay, Dave Wickman. The budget 2023 draft budget version 2.2 passes. Now we've got the discussion of the, I don't know who's running this, the development charges tap fee increase. So we had talked about the proposal, this was a while back, that we were gonna go by, what's our engineering,
Yeah, the engineering news report, which puts out different indexes.
ENR.
Yeah, ENR based on inflationary indexes, which are very precise, a lot of research.
So can you state the percentage or current percentage, because we're gonna be voting to increase the tap fees by that ENR rate.
Yeah, so you have options, I sent out the, all the November data on an email. And it had different ranges on there, but it was based on 5 years, so you could, depending on the legalities of it, we could base it on, okay, we're gonna raise this because we haven't raised it, and the inflation's been going up an average of 20% in the 5 years on some things, or should we go with 1 year? So,
Which rate's higher?
Karen, help me here, throwing a life, I'm using my lifeline to Karen now tonight.
I was expecting to see, I did not think we could vote on an increase. I thought we needed to vote on a rate. So I was expecting to see a rate sheet, that this would be the rate that we are doing. So I don't think we got to that point.
No, we did, because that's why we posted it for the public.
We have a rate sheet.
We don't have the rate sheet, but we were supposed to have that ready to go.
Yeah, I didn't make it. I do not know what that was.
Well, then the question is, I know legally we have to do the budget this month. Do we actually have to do the tap fee decision in December or?
Well, do you remember do you remember a month or two ago, Dave? Where were you at then? You were, yes, we need to do this. Now we put it on the board meeting so we could do it. And here we are, and you're kind of scratching your head. So. I always get troubled by this. It's like we act like it's the first time we've heard it when it's been, 60 days in the making, actually longer. I talk about this all the time.
Well, I'm torn by, on the other hand, if we just do nothing, it's getting away from us. But it's the sort of thing, it's like, well, if it was just one more month, gonna get a whole bunch of money. And that's kind of.
No, the index is not gonna change.
No, we're not, yeah. It's not,
Well, that's our liability.
we're just trying to stay current with some industry standard, not like the concept of making a lot of money. We're just trying to be legally at industry standard. So I guess the motion is, did I make a motion yet? I'm gonna make a motion to increase the tap fees at the current ENR rate for 2023. I think that's definitive, the 2023 ENR. That's the
I will
motion.
second the motion.
We have a second. Now, do we have discussion?
Would you mind restating the motion? I apologize.
So I made a motion to increase the tap fees by the current ENR engineering news report rate at 2023. Jeff could look up that level. But I'm still safe, I guess, Dylan, by stating. that.
Well, when we say 2023, do we mean up through 2022? Because it really,
Well, that's an open question.
It could be from December 2022 to December 2023.
That's what I meant. Do I have to withdraw and say that?
no, okay.
And that's percentage wise, how much? I thought somebody said 14%.
I thought he said 18.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll have to, the December just came out last week. I just said the November, so I'll pull up the December one, it's sent it out from 2022 to 2023.
So I'm just asking for that increase to stay even with that.
Yeah.
So that's the motion on the floor. We have a second. We're in discussion.
Well, I would say I agree. But it's somewhere down the road. We talked about, can we do it more often than just?
I have asked this board and tried to put the cadence at quarterly to review this.
Yes.
It's not that it's prudent to do it quarterly, but we should discuss it just to keep it fresh in our minds, because obviously we have slippage here all the time, so.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, if we really put some brain power to it, use some engineers and stuff like that, we could probably do better, but at a bare minimum, or at least we do inflation, that's it.
You had to get this going. This is part of the puzzle. You have to understand what you're gonna be doing with capital. This is a justification. And then how much we're gonna be doing, that's another justification. You have factors like ENR. We've been working on this for a long time, but you have to be able to justify things. So now we are getting to solid ground on doing this. And that's why that quarterly cadence, keep it fresh on everyone's mind and make sure we're marching to that destination.
So we're gonna do that, but in the meantime, for today, we're at least keeping up with inflation.
We are gonna increase it at the ENR rate, the engineering news report rate, which is a defensible position.
You're making your lawyer comfortable.
That's what I'm always trying to make legal. comfort.
There are no numbers involved, and there are several ENR rates.
Dylan, would you
Yeah.
like a hot cocoa and some chocolates?
Well, I do have some clarifying questions when the board has finished its discussion.
Well, that is my question to you. So like I said, in the past, the last time we did this, we decided on a rate and we were given a sheet. This will be the new rate with with the increase applied. So that's what we voted on. So can we apply on a non-specific increase or just an increase for the rate?
Yeah, so if you want to just increase the SDFs across the board, water and sewer and all of the subcategories of those by a determined percentage tied to the engineering news report a particular rate as provided by that, I'm comfortable with that. But I do want to make sure, that it is water and sewer, all of the subcategories, and which particular category of inflation you're selecting. Because I don't think it'd be appropriate to just say, Jeff, take a look at the December numbers and pick one and then apply that rate. I don't think that would be appropriate. So,
So we need a number.
yeah, it might be helpful, Jeff, if you could, you said the ENR numbers for December came out last week.
Yes.
Are those available?
Yeah, I'll go get them. So remember, there's 3 different indexes. So do you want all 3?
Yes, please.
Sam, I'll email you.
Out of 3 is a little bit less like picking out of a hat.
Well, and I would assume whatever we choose, since we've not really done it this way, is it's like a precedent, so we need to pick something that we're gonna feel comfortable with on a consistent basis using.
Well, this has been,
We did this last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to do this last year.
we did.
That's what I thought.
That's why I'm struggling with this again. just like-
I don't remember us using ENR.
ENR.
Yeah.
Director Peters. got
I
a
wasn't here.
subscription,
Okay,
So
well,
that's how
that's
we,
probably why I don't remember. I took her spot, I think.
and we used her numbers from her subscription. And
And that was a
and I
defensible
can't
thing.
remember which one it was, but that's why I was expecting to see that same process being followed.
Well, should we? Do we need to review what she had used so that we're consistent this year with what we used last year? Or does it matter to?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the idea of wanting to maintain some sort of continuity, but the idea of precedent doesn't really apply to boards of your nature.
Okay,
You retain discretion, which.
I'm asking, that means, the accountant in me likes consistency.
Yeah,
We're being consistent, but it is going to evolve. It's gonna, it's like everything else I want to see happen is optimization. Get your data points very clean.
Right, well, see, I guess from my standpoint, I like the thought as we go forward with things, that people, if we all die in a bus wreck tomorrow, that the people know what we're doing and that other people could come in and just continue the processes that, so that you have it, so that, not that it's that, but that most anybody can keep running with it, that there doesn't have to be roundtable discussions all the time about what to use.
Well, you don't want to keep reinventing the wheel.
Correct.
But on the other hand, if you can improve upon it.
I think the process, I liked seeing how they laid out. And that's where we did some of the different, on the development fees, because all the subcategories. Bill and reference, so Doug he had a process for that. To give it to us, so that would be worth following and then.
So Dylan, we got a motion on the floor, but for the sake of not being here till midnight. Can we talk about Alkire? I mean, we've got that under directors matters, just trying to.
yes, you can, but also. You need to do the audit engagement letter.
Or did you
Oh,
sign
I
it?
need to make, do I need to make a motion for it? I need to swallow.
Spit it out.
That's right. I make a motion that we accept the audit engagement letter with Crady Pook Associates. It was for $16,000 up to $100. It is the standard audit agreement, and so they're just looking for material misstatements of facts and numbers.
They run our.
And
audit.
essentially, yeah. Essentially, they will do, strategic testing, and they do not test everything. It's just on a limited basis, it's sampling. And then they will just see that if there's any material, like when they look at them, if things look materially off, and if so, they will adjust them accordingly and let us know.
Okay.
So I move that we approve that.
My second,
Yeah.
we have discussion. All in favor for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we have all 5 ayes. The motion passes, so you can sign that and hand it back to Jeff whenever he probably already did.
I did.
So, and then, as So we've got that off the audit engagement letter. So now we're at 1078 South Alkire new development. Who's going to speak to that?
Probably something that Jeff's gonna need to talk about.
How about the Jeff would be rules and regulations newsletter? Karen?
I can do newsletter. I can do newsletter quickly because I sent it. We had an email about it and I just recirculated that motion. Motion would be to communicate with our ratepayers through email newsletter whenever possible. The purpose, and I separated out, as you see in my thing, that since that came out before, there were a lot of questions about how to do it and but for us, we just need to decide if we want to do it. Pertinent things. I don't know whether to keep going. Pertinent things for this, even if you read through this, even if all we did with our email communications was not use that printed out postcard with postage, we would save ourselves $4,000. If there's nothing else we did, that would be worth it by itself to me. So, and there are other things we can do. I gave you an example of just the main break. It's 2 sentences. Here's a main break. People have been working in your area. People like to know these things. So I think it's incumbent upon us to be doing some outreach. At our outreach policy right now is ask us anything. We do not go to them, they come to us. So this would be an easy and cheap way to do that. Especially for things we already do. So I'd like to make a motion to communicate with our ratepayers through email newsletter whenever possible.
I will second.
Some questions.
No, we've got to, now we'll go to discussion.
They threw out $4,000. Is that the cost of doing a mailing?
Yes, that was the last mailing we did.
So if you're talking about saving 4,000, you're saying don't do a mailing.
Yes,
So the alternative is emails and website.
so, yes. I would say both, but reaching out to people is different than having it on the website and making them come to you. So again, I'm going to say there's lots of procedural questions that we can handle. As a matter of costs, we already have a mailing list, we already have the email server, we already have that. We will have to come up with the written stuff that goes on to our budget cards anyway. So all of that we are doing on the cards.
So it's our current mailing,
Yes,
no new additional mailings.
you could do additional mailings. Yes, I'm saying,
But like say, for example, to me, we'll do Excel, and I don't know about you, but so now I get on my phone, like. There's an outage in your area. We expect your power will return at 7 PM. I mean, if we just sent out an email or whatever that said, there's a water main break at Jewel and Alameda. So you are aware. I mean, it's gonna take the employees time, but it costs us virtually nothing.
That's not true.
That's not true.
To develop a specific email list for an area,
Right?
there would be a different process than a batch email to the whole section.
Talking about geofencing and so.
Well,
what-
could we not just do it to everybody?
we could do it to everybody.
Just do it to everybody regardless. I mean, in our district,
I think that.
period. That way you're not having to put constraints on it or make it, yeah, so people would get it. If nothing else, it'd be a useless email to them, but to some people it would be worthwhile.
I think, and I drive through your area, so you wouldn't want to, that's just to let people know that we are doing what we are doing. People are just curious. I think it will come in handy if we wanted to do financial updates or how we're proceeding with things. But even like I said, even if it's just the minimum, I am not proposing to come up with an outreach whole protocol here. I want to say, you guys figure out what you think is appropriate. And if we if they need to come back to us to ask for another motion or a procedure, then they can. But I don't know why in this day and age, we are still printing, we do not have a digital email. And we are not having any kind of.
Cause there's probably, I mean, like my father does not have email, but honestly. It wouldn't matter, wouldn't
It
matter.
would,
The,
but we,
No, please.
the one thing about the outreach for main breaks is we wouldn't have staff to do that after hours. We could do that for main breaks that happen
During the
during
day,
business hours,
correct.
but the vast majority of main breaks tend to be after hours events.
it would have. to
There
be
is,
done.
sorry, this is Jesse. I just barging in out of nowhere here, sorry.
We thought we died, Jesse.
A voice has appeared.
Are you
I
the
did,
ghost of Christmas past?
yeah. I feel ghostly right now. So I did, in preparation for newsletter discussion, dig into our emailing solution, as I had mentioned I would do last time. So there's a couple things we can do. I no need to go over them now, but I have looked through that process, and just for the sake of moving this forward, we have solutions in place with our current emailing thing that will allow us to develop a newsletter, as Director Morgan had suggested last time and here, so we can make that work. They also have an automated process, so we might be able to, you can trigger emails. If we developed something around main breaks, we could potentially send out automated emails. That's possible. And it's more complicated, but it is something that could be done down the road. Just want to throw that out there since that was kind of getting tossed around. It's not, initially we could just develop an email, a newsletter, and then later we might be able to do something as robust as what Excel does for outages.
Okay, so again, trying to, if I'm understanding, you're suggesting we do some outreach / newsletters using our current resources, either emails, electronic, or postcards. And we're not talking about doing additional mailing. Yes, no.
I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean by additional mailing?
Well, you said $4,000. The idea is if we print the newsletter and mail it out, there's obviously work involved in $4,000. That's one thing. If we're doing something else, which I get the impression you're talking about something else, either electronic newsletter that goes out via email or some notes on the postcards that are going out anyway.
No, I mean, at a minimum, I'm suggesting replacing that postcard.
What he's trying to do is save the postage.
Trying to save the 4,000, use the email system. We do some sort of a newsletter first. And that's what I'm hearing, right?
Yes, replace the postcards, yes.
So
And then
that's,
if you need to use the system, you've got the system, and I think there are things that they can do, but all I want to do is say, get the system in place for the things that we already do.
Okay, so currently we mail out postcards,
Yes.
and one option is to put things on the postcard, but you're not suggesting that. That's something that could happen.
Like an additional,
Dave, it's on,
something.
if you look on this sheet that Director Morgan handed out, so there's benefits, disadvantages.
Yeah.
That's a disadvantage that we, the cost and labor and all that stuff. I think, this is something, once again, I think we had this years ago. We had a newsletter and all that. It's gone to ground.
Yeah, we mail one out, that's all.
So, yeah, the simple thing here is just, do we want to do this or not? And it's an email.
So this
Right.
sounds different than what was proposed a meeting or two ago. It sounds better to me, actually, as long as it's on an as needed basis. We're not going to commit staff to put a lot of time and effort into this unless needed,
Right.
for some emergency or
no, it is
something
still an
newsworthy.
email newsletter, so
Right.
that sounds, but I'm not proposing.
Not like every month.
Well, I'm not gonna say that, if they feel like doing it, we have a main break every month usually, so if that's what they want to put
Sure.
in there, so
It
I.
probably should go out every month because it says in here to state for meetings, special meetings, breaks, that kind of stuff. Just keep people updated And I think a 12 or 30-day window is a good update.
I'm just concerned that you eat up a lot of staff time. You know, I get all these newsletters from the city and everybody else. There's a lot of fluff in them that I don't read. And I would hope that ours would be to the point, relevant, important information.
But you read my emails, no fluff in those.
I read yours. I comment too.
Okay, so,
I think I understand what you're saying.
okay,
It was
so
an email.
we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. Are we good to vote?
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, the motion passes. Jeff, so because I know we're
Newsletter.
tasking the hell out of you tonight, so.
Well, we're just me and Sam are good this
Yeah.
I think this.
So we got that passed and we're waiting for you on the, back with the ENR.
Yeah, so this is, if you look at the bottom of this, is the copy you guys sent from November that explains everything, and then here's the actual numbers on the different costs. Because we're a combined cost, well, a lot of it we do is construction and material, so you see the material cost is skyrocketing, so there's the average, and there's your different percentages, December, and there's the explanations below.
So Dylan, is the 13.1 average of the ENR, is that a defensible?
Yes.
So that's what we're looking at. That's where the motion is. That's what I requested. We have a second. Is everyone okay with me moving forward on a vote?
I am.
All in favor of voting for the motion to increase the tap fees by 13.1% based on the average combined, or the average of the 3 indexes of the ENR, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes. Okay, now we're at, Roger, I'm gonna turn it over to you, the City of Lakewood liaison.
I'm
All right.
sorry.
Is that you?
No, we skipped the rules and regs then.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was waiting for Jeff to come back. Okay. Thank you. We're at rules and regs.
Yeah,
Environmental.
I'll hire too. Yeah, we just skipped those two. today.
Sorry. I couldn't remember.
We are really testing you here. This is a real 360 event.
Yeah, so you want to go rules and regs or 1070? I can tell.
Let's go to 1078 just to stay straight.
Okay, so 1078, I sent the email out describing what the requirements were for the developer. And then we made sure the developer was aware of it, and the developer contacted his attorney. And so everything, all the documents were sent to Dylan. So that's where we stand right now is they have the documents, the contact attorney, our attorney has all the documents.
Just to update the public and people in the room, so Director Morgan and myself, along with Jeff Tyus, we responded within the time frame that we had spoken to the developer, and we met those deadlines. And got the, and everything run through legal and our manager, so we met the deadline, everything was supplied to that developer. All right, any further? Alfire?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
His attorney did reach out to me and he said he would be sending me a letter.
Okay,
So
And that was my question. Is it gonna sue us?
I doubt it.
And we haven't seen a letter here either.
okay.
But we don't actually have a true cost on it yet, do we?
Well, we were having to give them an idea.
Right, I saw that from the one, but what I'm saying is, were we going to, if he moved forward that flow study, were we then going to get another bid? For the
That would
line
have
right
triggered, first off, that would have been like exposition. It would have been a $6,000
Right,
expenditure to
the flow,
JBA. They
right.
would have run all the numbers.
right,
They would have brought it back, and then we would be at the level of the exposition. Where like Merrick had done, that now we get into the understanding the costs of trying to get everything back into the green.
Right,
And-
you'd be in a little better situation too, because the JVA proposal included cost sharing proposals. They would recommend, they would make and recommend cost sharing proposals.
okay,
For the Alkire portion. I don't think it included the.
Kentucky.
The Kentucky.
okay, that'd be great, thank you.
That was the 4th category of the work product from the JVA proposal.
Does anybody notice that, have they been doing anything else out there?
I'm
not gonna comment on that because there's a letter already been sent, so I'm gonna remain silent.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go silent on that, so. All right, anything else on Alcar? Anybody?
Well, inside, if they do start doing things on their own, at that point, it's at their risk.
They are, they have
Well, they're
been
at
doing
risk
stuff,
anyway.
they have already started all that and. I'm not gonna comment.
I wonder if I was missing something.
No, they've been at risk, at their own risk since they broke ground.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Jeff, did you send that to the board or I did that only on the main?
Let's see, Terry, no, I did not send this to the board.
Okay, that might be that might be of interest to them if you just want to circulate that to the directors.
Yes, I will. It's just some explanation on Alcar, what's going on.
Okay, Jeff, rules and regulations, environmental work.
Okay, so the rules and regs were sent out for review and then we were sent out on the agenda and the vote, so this is the first one is the modify the rules and regs for hazardous conditions with employees. So what we're doing is we're saying no employees are allowed to work in hazardous conditions or around hazardous materials. It's pretty straightforward. And here it is. So all we got to do is have Director Baker sign it.
Did you review this? And we're
I did.
good?
I was comfortable with that.
Okay.
Like language pulled from any other document like that.
I suppose there's always a risk that they can play games and say that their definition of hazardous is different than our definition of hazardous.
But I
You
think
see that engineer sitting over there in the corner, environmental, we would then contract that out, we would have our own independent third-party testing performed. And come back with environmental study from an engineering house. By a PE, and that would be submitted.
And this language includes the definition of hazardous, so.
Yeah.
Your employees don't go into an environment that is hazardous according to your definition.
Yeah, it's a real definition, trust me. It's a real thing, okay?
That's a good thing.
That's signed.
Yeah, here's the other one that Director Morgan had.
Yeah, so that was, we've got it signed, but we do need a motion and a second to.
Okay, can I see that?
Well, that's for, yeah, so do a second motion for the hazardous waste one.
Well, I will move that we accept the rule change to basically include the definition of hazardous materials and safety of our employees.
I will second. Discussion.
Well, I'm gonna go for it, but I'm just always thinking outside the box.
I wish
Is
Is there a lid?
there any advance notice for changes to the rules and regulations that have to go out to the public? Or can we change rules and regulations essentially in one meeting?
You can do it willy-nilly.
We did post that at the last,
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
so we are keeping it, I mean, we're not moving at some crazy pace, I mean, it was out there in the public domain.
There are provisions for changes to the bylaws, I think, but the rules and regs are. Less.
I'm trying to remember what was on the website. Was this proposal actually on our website? Or, I know the agenda says we were gonna discuss a change in the agenda, to the regs, but it doesn't say what the change is.
I don't know if it was posted to the website, but it was circulated to me and directors.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be circulated to several. No. Okay,
Well, if you're gonna work, right, I mean, if you're gonna come in here and do work in this area, you have to go to where? The rules and regulations, you review them. And you have to be compliant, so.
well, I used to work for you, I mean, sometimes when you're changing rules and regulations, there was a process. And then you couldn't necessarily do it overnight, you had to submit it to the public and the public can come back. I'm not advocating for that, but I'm saying working for the government, I know that stuff happens.
Okay,
So I had a question. I certainly wouldn't want to endanger or expose an employee, but is PPE ever an option in any of this?
look, let me tell you something, you can run PPE out to the nth degree. You know, there are people that work in hot nuclear facilities. You know, how far do you want to go? I mean, that's the thing of delineation. You're talking about standard day-to-day operations in this district. Do we send somebody out now? They have the Tyvek suits, I'm sure, here, and gloves, and they wear PPE, but there is like an OSHA minimum standard to operate in the standard water and sanitation work. We are delineating that that is normal, but once you get into the quote unquote hazardous world, and that is a real term. And that can be defined multiple ways of what equals hazardous. And that becomes out of scope with what we do typically.
That's fair. That
In the
helps me
world, in the
understand.
world I used to work at, there was stuff, I have certifications out my rear end on all that stuff, but there gets to be a point, I can't work on that, and then you have to get into a very specialized group that is licensed and testing and all kinds of crazy stuff goes on when you work at that level. And we're not set up to work at that level.
No, fair enough. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it gets very crazy real fast. You have to know where you cross that threshold. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes on the rules and regulations on environmental work. We covered newsletter. Roger, you're up with City of Lakewood liaison.
Okay, I'll be brief. It was my pleasure to receive response from the city almost immediately. I had a telephone meeting with city manager Kathy Hodgson. I can't speak for her, and I certainly want to maintain her privacy, but she lives in this relative area. She's very sensitive to issues related to growth and developers, and is interested, as we are, in having development pay its own way. So she's very responsive, but she couldn't answer a lot of my questions directly or immediately. She's coming up to speed on a lot of it. I did use 1078 South Alkire as an example of our concerns and time constraints and those kinds of things. Her planning director immediately followed up, Travis Parker, and gave me a call. We spent some time on the phone together, and he too was sympathetic and assured me that they're going to work more closely with us, try and tighten up these communication issues and timing issues. I also wanted to add that Mr. Tyus basically beat me to the punch on this, and I had exchanged emails with some of these people prior to my time with them on the phone meeting. But I felt pretty good about it all. They seem sympathetic. We'll just see how it rolls out with time.
So Dylan, since I'm going to circle back to Ravine Bridge, since we have him as a designated liaison, can we then have him go forward with this Ravine Bridge thing, since we're creating a liaison here? And I mean, might as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I would
I-
think yes.
I think that is reasonable.
It's just one more avenue. I mean, it's like, how many different ways can we come at these people?
I think the greatest likelihood is that you are gonna get handled. But I think the greatest.
Hey, that is a great way to say that. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm gonna write that
I
down.
think they already did.
But I
And
think
it sounded encouraging.
yeah, no, I think the greatest likelihood is that I'm going to get handled too, so that's not a dig at you by any means, so maybe a two-track approach wouldn't be a bad idea. I plan to participate also, but
Certainly.
make your inquiries.
I'll probably follow up with them after the holiday. Okay. Good.
All right, thanks, Roger. Appreciate you doing all that. It's good.
You have a thought.
No, but I heard you say you were still going to pursue, so I don't want to
You're up, Karen.
wait again. District engineer sent out, we talked about, our district engineer is an evolving process of what we would like to see. We've tried a couple different things. This is the new year. And it's a good time to be kicking this forward again. We're trying to get away from that single source model. We have been trying that for a little while, and after our last meeting, had some more discussion about that. So I laid out options. This is what we could do instead of having a single source district engineer. We have tried hiring a staff, looking for a new replacement. But that's still a single source. Digging in deeper, we found that we, meaning Dylan, found places that a district engineer was referred to in our rules. We don't need to have one except for our rules. So I think it would help to to change our rules to not have a district engineer. Just have an engineer. And that is the model we have been going towards with bringing on JVA and HDR. So mostly I want you to see the options. I think going forward, it would be easiest to keep on the track that we are going, to change our rules and regulations on as they are presented here. There's just a couple places to take out district engineer and leave it as engineer.
Okay, so I looked over all that and I would like to make a motion based off of the email sent out from Director Morgan. I'm going to make a motion to move forward with option number 3. And then below option number 3, there's the to include the proposed change to the rules and regulations. That is my motion.
You said that much faster than I did. Thank you very much.
That's what I'm good at.
A second.
Okay, we have a second. Do we have discussion?
I assume your second means that you're in agreement with this plan.
She wrote it.
Oh, God, Dave, what's in that box?
You're still in good.
I think this is the best process. I think there will be some hiccups along the way. This is a lot of. It's going to be placing a greater burden on Mr. Tice, but that's what we have been asking all this time. So there will be hiccups and.
So
And
to
we will
address
deal with
that, we had Director Morgan and myself met with Jeff Tias on Monday, right? When was I here? I don't know what day it is.
6 years ago.
6 years ago to the day.
I
We had met earlier this week and we were going over this proposal with him to make sure that, we're just not dropping this on him and it's not something that he cannot manage or something he's not used to. And there are other people that operate at this level. He is used to operating at that level. And when we had the discussion on the manager's 360 review and all this stuff, this puts more tools in Jeff's toolbox to be more dynamic with the needs of the district, so rather than just a single type of engineer, he can maneuver in real time and it gives him more options. We're just basically authorizing him to do that.
That's fine. As I told Karen, she's working on it. Whatever she thinks is the way to go is the way I'm gonna go. I just need to be clear as to this is a recommendation. Okay.
If you have a better one, yeah.
No.
This is where I'm at right now. This is what I think the board can do to help this process along, is to change the rest of this is all suggestions. Things that I see are causing hiccups. But it's not at the board policy level. So I'm writing them down and this is at the board policy level. Did you have any suggestions to do it different?
I don't think that you need to remove the word district from the district engineer definition. I think that just the change in conceiving the process is sufficient. And I would recommend against changing that definition because there are going to be a lot of downstream administrative effects of that because all of your rules and regs and your engineering standards refer to district engineer. So you're just kind of looking at an administrative burden.
So how do we make that caveat now that I've made a motion on this?
I think
Second motion or separate motion?
Can I interrupt though? But hearing that caveat, I did consider that. And I think it is worth the burden to get that cleared up so that because we have been operating at a district engineer level for so long, that everybody's still assuming that there is a district engineer and America is getting those calls. So I think it needs to be made.
What if there was just a definition of the district engineer?
well, the definition is the person or firm contracted to do engineering work.
But it doesn't have to be solely a firm.
Right.
It can be any number of firms.
Right. Well, and it is. You currently have Merrick and you have JVA and you have HDR. They all fall within the definition as it's currently written.
So to be
But-
clear on what to the public and other people around the room is we want, and the discussion has always been, we need our manager to be the face of the district. And if you have somebody that has been typically that position, then people will tend to want to circumvent our manager, and then you got escapements, right? And I don't think there's no intent on anything. We're trying to reduce the escapements in processes in this district. So we want all roads to lead to our manager. That's why we made sure we had this discussion, make sure he's good with it. And then the manager will assign the specific engineering houses or contractors or project managers as needed for that day in this district.
Right, and I did see a change, a proposed change to the development review process.
That is one of these suggestions. That was not something that we would have to motion, but yes, you'd have to change it on the development review. It said you might have to do some contract changes to make sure of who's doing what, but that's not something that we would have to do. And Mr. Ty's over that. I assume that we will find other papers, as you're saying, and that will come up, and hopefully it will not be a problem. It's because, as you say, it will be, it's more of an administrative
Yes.
task than anything else. So it wouldn't be a problem if a paper came up tomorrow where we missed district. He could just clear it up. It's mostly just to say, if things come through that way, that it will come to his attention and he can clear it up, and then to say to that person, we no longer have a district.
So to delineate it, we're
Right.
delineating the process, not the administrative things underneath it, so we can edit as needed, but we need to focus the process or create the process, and this is the process on motion. So we have a second. Any further discussion?
You're good with all that?
Yep.
Roger?
So I'm still. Okay, so back to the definition, if it is already. Acceptable, I guess. What I'm wondering, so just pulling the district name, is that really even changing anything?
Well, it's the difference between as it's written, as you see, it says district engineer or
There you go.
engineer. And it kind of sounds like there's two different people. Well, who's your district engineer then? Can I talk to the person in charge? I want to talk to the district engineer.
We're trying to focus everything through the manager, which is what should be happening,
Okay,
and we're trying to close off escapements into the
right,
process.
I understand. So instead of someone going directly to the engineer, we go through Jeff.
Yes.
And then Jeff would assign the specific engineering house to that, or a project manager or construction management. There's 3 tiers to that, and that could all change. That's the other
Okay.
thing. He
I'm
needs to
fine
be
with
able
that.
to move within those 3 tiers.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All
I
right,
believe that's a good engineering process.
Okay.
Depends on your manager.
any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, the motion passes.
This is rules of regs, so you have to sign them. This sign it, David.
Yeah, I'll sign it here in a second. So now we are at the Lean Kaizen special meeting for 2023. So I had Jeff, I've been sending some stuff out to go out to the board to get ready for a special meeting in January that we will be having
Thank you
a
for coming.
Kaizen event. Thanks, Mandy. Nice to meet you. This is around our annual budget. We're talking about this thing getting better definition and not going through what we have been going through annually, where just fire hoses hooked up everywhere, right? And Dave, to your point, this will address all these different things. We're going to get a lot more discrete information for each specific, segment of the business here. This will kind of be the big balloon, right? We're like, what are we going to do? And we'll probably come in. You don't want to ever determine what's going to come out of the event because it's like a brainstorming thing. But the model is not to solve all of it in this one-time event, but to probably we acknowledge we have a problem, and then probably assign follow-on Kaizen events that we will break down each one specifically. And I've been sending out some stuff so everyone understands we tend to work with the staff. You don't want more than 8 to 9 people. It's kind of like these are like Kaizen blitz type things where we kind of come in and get this thing figured out and then get out. We will take that information and then we will continue to improve and optimize each part going forward. Any questions on that? Okay. I'll sign this then, and I guess we're up to the district manager 360 review, which I thought we did already, but
The 360 review is a suggestion going forward.
So just my,
Go ahead.
when this was on the agenda, I thought we were actually gonna be picking dates.
So I'm looking for, and I'll put this at the end, I just, I did, I wanted to extend an offer to Nathan Davis, who was worked on the Denver water proposal. And the reason I wanted him in this is his wheelhouse is analytics. And that's what this is gonna get into, is analytics. And I would love to have, we've got an accountant, we've got an economist, we've got all these different. We have all these great people in here. The one thing is when you want to, get into an analytical level of how you want to go forward, that you are gonna, that's a component of the Kaizen event. Because you have to be able to measure what you're doing. Are you successful and how do you measure it? And that's where you got to have an analytics type person available.
Always.
So I'm proposing for the second, give us a week. So we have our January board meeting and then a week in between and then whatever that is, 2 weeks from the January board.
It's like the 24th, maybe.
Yeah, and I can put that at the end here. So
So basically the end of January.
basically, yeah, Super Bowl week or something.
I'll be out of the country that particular day. You could delay it one more week, that would be good.
I'm okay with that. And I got to reach out to Nathan. And like I said, I was gonna see if, but it's still kind of, I'm gonna work on this, but yeah, just. We can propose a tentative date and we can adjust that.
Like the 31st maybe, but
Yeah,
don't cater to me necessarily.
well,
But I won't be able to zoom from where I'll be at.
we need you here, so. At the end of the meeting, why don't you look at the calendar and kind of propose a date to us?
Okay, 31st of January.
Okay. I'll put that on here.
Is that what day of the week is that?
That's a Tuesday. And we'd meet again 2 weeks after that, so it might be comfortable.
All right.
Okay, so we got the date for the Kaizen, and Dave, your question was what on the manager 360 review?
Yeah, question on the date.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now we are back.
Oh, I
to
was
you.
dating the Kaizen.
I'm sorry, Karen had a thing with the manager. So why do we have the manager review on here?
Because I would like to do that. I wonder if anybody else had that, make that part of the process. Not for this time since we just did it, but that would be good for next time. Anybody have interest? And I don't know if we are reevaluating, are we reevaluating our manager as evaluation as part of the Kaizen?
Yes, and like I said, that would all be under like staff, right? You would, when we get to the staff level and what that looks like and put that under there.
Okay. Are we scheduling, there was a proposal to do quarterly manager reviews.
Well, that's what you proposed and
I
I thought that there was you proposed quarterly, I think we said biannual or so I came back and
I think we came up with biannual.
because.
That's fine.
I lived in a world where everyone said quarterly and there was from directors on down, nobody could, it's too much to do. It sounds good on paper. In practice is pretty much impossible. Everyone's too busy.
Oh, yeah, I think biannual is a lot myself, but.
Okay, well then I would agree with the annual, but see, that's all the stuff we could fight it out in the Kaizen event, right? Define,
We're fighting it out.
well,
But the biannual would be quick and informal, I'm assuming.
I don't, so if they're, I don't know. I think that's, if we're getting into that level of detail, and that's obviously not a single Kaizen event. But that's why I was wondering about getting that process.
it's not a single Kaizen event, but it would fall under a Kaizen event, probably with this staff focus.
Okay,
That'll be like one part of the annual budget, right? You've got capital, you've got staff, you've got your capital projects, you kind of break these things out.
okay. So we'll make a note to put that on discussion point for that.
Okay, now we're at the section H that you motioned onto the agenda for financial.
Financial planning, that was also. We talked about a little bit, because we had so much discussion going on about how to do the infrastructure costs and how we're going to. Did we want to pull them out separately or include them in our capital reserve and all of those kinds of questions? I think it would be helpful to start and you're thinking the same thing, I think Director Baker on the Kaizen, but this is a special one. I think it would be worth pulling out and having a special subcommittee for. So I'd like to make a motion to create a financial planning subcommittee to create a financial plan for our aging infrastructure cost.
I will second. Discussion.
So I have a list of topics that it could be extended to, but you know, it would just as long as it focused on that infrastructure. Point is to take it offline and come back with some more recommendations for the next time. My immediate thought is that we have an economist on our board, we have an accountant. Maybe if you were interested, I think that would be an appropriate use.
I'm hearing the bus, I'm hearing the bus backing up. So I'm hearing a subcommittee with Dave Wickman, Todd Hooks. Combined with, I guess that you didn't define really what the subcommittee would look like, but you're kind of saying it now. So we've got, I'm hearing Dave Wickman and Todd Hooks that working with Jeff, is that correct?
Yes, I mean, as long as there's somebody working on it, I would think Jeff and Doug would be useful to have around. That would be if you could meet during the day, and if not, I mean, I don't know, it'd be up to you all. To do it public.
HDR in it too, you know, HDR had that big report on it too.
Yeah, that is included.
Well,
here.
that's what we just authorized you to do. Basically, you will turn on stuff as needed, you know, to work this stuff. So you're authorized to move forward, so.
So I guess my question is, so are you, where we done this prioritization or his FICA plan that we're supposed to do all this assessment of what needs? So when you're saying this financial planning, are we supposed to be coming up with a way to get money to do all of it? Is that what you're wanting to know?
I think that.
You got the target of $80.5 million. What's missing is time. You know, you got magnitude, but you don't have the time. So you got to get that XY thing figured out. And I think that's what you're aiming for, right?
I think so. I think there's lots of things that you would have to look at. Can we? What rate structure would look like, a fee structure, how you want, if we can incorporate all those things, and even if you can. If you'd make a decision, for example, that you want to put an infrastructure improvement fee on our bill now. For $2 a month or whatever it is.
So Joe, if you could put a note on this, I mean, if this passes, then I guess what you're looking, we'd need a Monte Carlo type spreadsheet, right? There's like, if we did this, if we did this, if we did this, you know, create that graph.
Right.
To present to the board and to the public. It's like, you know, here's your options, you know, right? Is that what you're saying?
Because I mean, what would it look like if we want to, if we can pay for all this ourselves? What would the time schedule be? What would the rate and fee structure look like? Do we have to look at bonding out at some point? What is our options here? So look at, yes, how we're going to pay for that.
Well, and I think in all fairness, you know, like talking, we had the council member from Arvada, you know, they bonded out, they've had to bond out. I think he said 3 times, you know.
Yeah.
We haven't had to do that in our history here, you know. So that would be like one of the Monte Carlo, you know, things like, you know, if you did this, if you don't do bonding, you don't do, you know, these mill levy type things, and you're like, if we do it ourselves at 4 to 5 million, you know, we do the math. I mean, how many times 5 going to 80? I mean, I'll be dead and gone by then. You know, what are the options? And of course, there could be a hybrid of all that, but we don't. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but so HDR listed all kinds of options in that HDR draft, and they have this spreadsheet too. And they're gonna come to talk to us on January 10th. So we can.
Are you saying they've already done this?
Not, they're not, they have the pieces to do it. They have a lot of these pieces to do it, but they haven't found, like Director Baker said, they haven't graphed X and Y yet. So they have the pieces to start graphing X and Y to get there, but they haven't graphed it.
We have to define that.
Yeah.
And that's probably what you're
Well,
proposing as a subcommittee that would help with the X and Y. I mean, we know what X is, what is Y.
Yeah.
And that's what
Well,
you
but
guys.
there's
are
also a lot
doing.
of tolerance in there as far as. I mean, how much can we lay on people at one time?
Well, that's the different thresholds, right? That's That's why I'm saying, we don't just come out of this with one thing. You know, we're
Well, I
gonna
understand that, but
socialize it.
I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, I think, not to be simplistic, but I think we can come up with a number of ways to get the money. That's pretty simple, honestly. The question is, what's the impact gonna be on the district and the people, and how are they going to deal with it?
Well, and that's why we have to get something to present to them. So we had somebody from the public, you know, is questioning what's going on, and
Right.
rightfully so, but, you know, in defense of it. You know, this gets way worse if you know, I mean, it's not like we're really gonna knock down this elephant quick enough. And it's like, there better be more options. I mean, you don't want to end up like these other cities. You know, where you just run it out, like, you know, let's just not tell anybody any of the bad news, and then one day critical mass. And then it becomes an emergency thing. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't want to be part of that.
Keep in
That's what it
mind,
comes
there's a
down to.
lot of federal government money out there, and that's that HDR report, so we can look, you know, a lot of that is.
Yeah, but it seemed
loan
like
forgiveness.
because we didn't really have a lot of debt, we didn't really qualify for a lot, right?
Yeah, there's qualifications, that's what HDR is helping us, you know.
Yeah,
But
principal
now we've
forgiveness.
defined the debt.
Yeah,
Well,
We're on the road to defining the debt.
yeah, and your ratepayers are pretty well to do, so, yeah, your funding opportunities are.
Slim and low.
well, then there's super low interest loans too.
So they did present some
Well,
generic kind of
Okay.
options.
and
So
that gets
that'll be-
back to your thing, like with us going through on investment with C-Safe. Versus if we had to finance, you know, bigger things, it's like. Where, you know, that's that threshold too, where's the money spent better?
Right.
In real time dollars today? Or having to look at a loan tomorrow at whatever the rate is now, 6%, and we're only getting how much? At C-Safe?
3.
I mean, yeah, those are the kind of options, you know, it's just like, you just kind of do the math, and. There should be like better, best, better, you know, options. And start from there. We just don't, we know that it is, we just have to define what they are. And look at the different cases.
Are you liking the idea but not wanting to be on it? What are you asking?
I don't mind
What do you
being
think?
on it. I mean, like I said, I think, I mean, I can come up with all kinds of proposals. I mean, to me, what it boils down to is back to what the customers can tolerate.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, I mean, they seem to be crying over what we're doing now, and we're not even really doing much. But, you know, when I'm seeing people are saying their utility bills are doubling, and then it's kind of like we're all jumping on the bandwagon at once, and we're
So
just
maybe-
piling on.
So maybe we add in that customer that emailed us, you know, for input on this.
I think it'll be valuable for a lot of things, yeah.
Did you would say that again?
I think you're right, that will be valuable.
So can I
Later on.
mention her name?
Hmm.
She sent the email out.
Debbie
I think it was
Romero.
today.
Deborah Romero, yeah. She would, maybe we could reach out to her and ask her, you know, if you want to be,
I think in a bar too. if you want.
well, and you know what, we just have to define the committee right now, so that's what she's proposing. So I guess 10 minutes later, we're still asking you guys if you're on board with it.
Sure.
Okay, so then we would add in, if you guys would want, it's your committee. If you wanted to add in, I guess we could authorize having people from the public on your committee. And then, you know, you could update the board, and as what Jeff had spoken.
Yeah, so I have to second what Todd's saying, part of the process would be what would be palatable.
Correct.
And so I'm kind of visualizing, like, here's some scenarios, talking about these newsletters going out to the public. Here's some options. Which one would you prefer? Because you're the one's gonna have to bear the cost. And if you'd rather pay this, or you'd rather us do bonds, or, you know, whatever, at the end, we serve you. You're our public. We're your servants.
Yeah, with the caveat, it's like, you know what, we all grow old, and someone says, well, I don't want to grow old. Well, that's off the table. So we got an aging infrastructure, it's growing old, and we understand what we don't want to do. Nobody wants to, but we're gonna have to do something, so. Okay, so
My caveat would be, if you're going to open it to the public, which is fine, that anybody who wants to be on the committee then gets added.
I don't see why we keep anybody on.
Okay. Do we need any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes for the subcommittee on financial planning to include.
Because of the open, right,
The committee will add in members of the public.
you can do.
Okay, we're on a next agenda item, which we are moving into.
Hold on, let me follow up a question, Rafa. Ordinarily, the rule is if you got 3 board members, you got a public meeting and you have to follow the procedures. But are the procedures simply a matter of noticing to the public that we're having this meeting, inviting people to come to the meeting and putting out a record of the meeting? If we were to do those 3 things, will we still be legal if there were 3 of us there?
Well, yeah, so the question is, if you complied with all of the formalities for an open meeting, would you be complying? Yes. I mean, yeah, if you notice it and
Be a study session, you just notice a study session or
Yeah,
maybe
make it open to
subcommittee
the
meeting,
yeah,
24-hour notice.
Because that would be my sense, because what's his name, Roger there, he's gonna be around for, 3 or 4 years. And I think it'd be great if he got, really educated on this stuff, because he'll probably be our leader in 2 or 3 years. And so I'd like to get him involved.
Well, just make the special meeting and, look, it's.
I don't like, you're the head of the meeting now, buddy.
Yeah, how did that bus feel? You were over there in the quiet zone, you didn't even see it coming.
No, I still have quite a bit to learn. I'd like to observe from a distance
How
for this
far?
first year.
Venezuela?
About 4 miles. No, I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't need to be part of the committee just yet.
Okay,
Thanks for asking.
okay,
But if you attended a meeting, we'd still have to go through the procedures, right?
yes,
To make it legal.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, Dylan.
yeah.
I'll read your notes.
all right. Dylan, you're on deck. Agenda item number 10, legal matters, IGA fossil rig.
So I sent out an email a couple days ago, it may be Friday, with a summary and an update regarding where we're at on those negotiations and. Essentially, we're at the same place as we were at the beginning of the negotiations, which is. The IGA is expiring middle of January of next year. As drafted. There are renewal periods of 5 years permitted. And there are 2 categories of negotiation, in my opinion. One is service and one is reservation of capacity. So my initial draft was 15-year renewal service periods with, I think, a 2-year reservation of capacity period. And the board instructed me to revise that to 1-year renewal periods of service and a hard stop on reservation capacity in January of next year. The attorney for Fossil Ridge that I've been interacting with has expressed considerable concern over the 1-year renewal periods. She has some concern, but considerably less about the reservation of capacity issue. We have some directors from Fossil Ridge here that you may be interested in talking to about, especially the renewal periods. And I think that it would be important tonight to hammer out the reservation issue. It's probably important to hammer out as much of this as we can tonight, the board's formal position on those 2 issues, but the amount of capacity to be served and how that's determined and when, those are the capacity elements that I need to receive policy instruction.
So here's what I'm thinking, and it was around this reserve capacity. I don't have a problem myself with going to a 5-year, or whatever service contract, right? There's not any issue with that, none with me. My only thing is we're dealing with, we're at red alert capacity problems over here, and we want to honor what you guys have, with what's going on now. And I would be okay with if you have permits pulled on buildings right now. I mean, stuff that's in progress. I mean, it's permitted. I don't want to create a problem with that. But because of where we're at on capacity, having reserve capacity, I'm not in favor of. Beyond anything that is like construction going on right now or permitted construction going on right now.
Our primary purpose here tonight is to provide stability to the 1,200 existing customers that you have right now. That the concern we have there is to be able to explain to them why we would be going from 5 years back to 1 year. I mean,
The 1 year was because of if there was like some formula of like capacity, you know, if we can eliminate, like I said, if there's like stuff that is in progress right now, construction, permitted construction. I think it's only fair to let that happen. But anything beyond what's ever permitted right now, that goes to zero capacity. And I'm okay myself with extending, because we don't want to interfere with the service, I'm okay with the service. And I don't want to destabilize that. That's not the question. That's not a problem, to answer your question.
well, Terry.
For me.
Yeah, go ahead. If I can get up. Dave is right. Our primary concern is the frequency of renewal. Okay. And to us, it doesn't matter whether there's any more townhouses built or not.
That's what I was wondering.
Okay.
So does that?
But I
affect-
can't say that.
Well, does
We're
that
in
like, do
places.
you, if more are built, does that benefit you or detract from you, or does it not make really any difference?
You can make a case both ways, I think.
Mhm.
But as far as I'm concerned, looking at the issues and the services we have to provide. You know, I think there's this big thing that happens with municipalities where they can get overextended with services. And so when I look at what the services we have to provide, I don't think that we gain much by having more townhouses. They're a headache for us.
Right,
Snow removal, everything else. But I will say this. There is a number of, there are in filing 19, there are townhouses that are going up. Filing 18 and 20, they put all the infrastructure in. But no town, they haven't built anything yet. I understand that they may have pulled some permits or in the process of pulling permits, but I don't know that for a fact. Filing 21 is 61 units. And we have filed comments with the city. There's a number of things we are not happy with there. So, you know, when I look at the whole thing, agree with what Dave just said. We are interested in the frequency. That's what we're here for, and that's what we are worried about.
We're more concerned about capacity. I think we're flexible. I don't think we have a problem with frequency. We want to serve your, you know, our service agreement. There's nothing in question.
And we were sensitive of your comment 2 or 3 meetings ago about it remaining static, and that's when Terry went back and he did some really deep research to try to tell you what the maximum EQRs are going to be.
right.
So we were sensitive to where you guys were concerned about. We also don't get the communication from the developer. I mean, we're kind of out of the loop all the time. So that's why I say our concern is for our existing 1,200 plus residential units that are already customers of yours. I mean,
So that's where I don't know about the rest of the board.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
when I was gonna ask a question, right, and I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna say it again, not because I'm repetitive, but just make sure I got it. When you guys came back months ago, there was talk about extending the reserve capacity for another year. And so it kind of gave the impression that if these guys got more units in the next year, we'd still be good to go. And I'm not good to go with that part. And if we're real clear that reserve capacity is shutting off in a month from now, and if they're not on board at that point, they don't have another year to go. And that's why I was concerned about, when you said a year, are we talking about giving them another year to get stuff in? Or do you simply want them make sure the renewals are like every 5 years, which I think we all agree on that part.
But there's the two, like Dylan's saying, there's two different components.
Right.
That's the one putting in new and servicing new, and then there's the servicing existing.
Right.
And what their concern, if I'm hearing correctly, their concern is the existing, which we don't have a problem with.
That's what I'm hearing.
It's the potential new that kind of, if it's in the works, listening to Jeff, if it's in the works or permitted, we would accept it. If it is not,
Well, there's a
we
difference.
would probably not want to service it.
There's a difference in the works and permitted. They're on a timer with the city, right? They have to build, they're gonna build. And the works could still be, we don't know,
Yeah, could be in the platinum stage.
right? And where I would try to define this, and I'm trying to make this clear from myself. I have no issues with extending service if they want, if we're looking at 5 years, no problem with any of that.
We all agree with that. Okay.
My problem is only around the reserve capacity.
Right, right.
I am only okay with extending. If they have permits that are pulled, because I don't want to create another problem for our legal. We have, let that build out. If they're permitted. This thing in the works, no. To me, that's another hypothetical. It could, maybe, who doesn't, it's not definitive.
Yeah, what's it?
I'm only about definitive work in progress. That can be legally defined, like it's
Right.
permitted with Jeffco, it's permitted with Lakewood, that is defined. If it is not in those two categories. It's outside the scope of anything I want to go forward.
Right.
I have no trouble with time. Because that's just gonna be the thing, we don't want to cause a problem there, it's just about, you can hear the meetings. Capacity, this thing on Alkire is only 12 EQRs, that's a small thing. Look what that is eating us up. So when we're talking about 400 and some EQRs in reserve, when we're on fire over here, it's kind of madness, we're not being consistent.
We would appreciate the 5 years would be wonderful. I mean, that's just, going backwards just suggests a lot of stuff that
We were just concerned about if there's this reserve capacity and then, that thing getting, this push me, pull you type thing. So I think we can get that hammered out tonight.
Yeah.
In fact, I could make a motion now. I would like to motion on a 5-year extension of the IGA for Fossil Ridge. Defined with no additional reserve capacity. Except for currently permitted construction. That's my motion.
As of January 15th, 2023.
No, right now,
As of
permitted right now.
Today.
Well, let me ask you, is that reasonable? I always have to say that because my wife tells me I'm not reasonable.
Yeah, I think we have to allow it up to the
Yeah,
January.
okay, I think that's reasonable.
Can I?
Yeah.
Offer a suggestion? Getting a handle on what is permitted, and I agree with your concern, but getting the arms around what is permitted, because as we look at what we are aware of, and jump in here if I'm missing something, but filing 19 has been in 20. Yeah, filing the 18, 19, and 20 infrastructure is in. It's there.
When you say infrastructure, are you talking sidewalks and sewer and water lines, or are you talking
Yes.
foundation? Or
No,
just-
yes, no foundation, just
Okay,
streets, paving.
okay,
They've done all that work. In filing 19, I'm skipping 18, because nothing has been. The infrastructure is there, but nothing's been built. But we understand a couple of permits may have been pulled. This is understanding, but in 19, there are 3 5-unit townhomes, buildings are up. I mean,
all right.
so all I'm trying to do is be helpful in terms of understanding and defining what you're trying to achieve.
So then,
And we don't have that. full
Well, and
knowledge.
so, yeah, and I think that the negotiating point is, and we maybe go out to January 15th.
That'd be my recommendation.
So I will amend that to say January 15th.
And to clarify, it's January 15th.
Well, hang on, I'm in the middle of a motion, so I'm trying to give that, it'll be January 15th of things that are permitted. That are on record permitted with City of Lakewood /Jeffco. That's my motion.
And just to clarify, that definition of permitting includes they pay at this point now. It's not like I got the permits, I'll pay you next year.
They can't do that. You go pull a permit, it starts a timer. You're on a timer.
When do we get our tap fees?
When they,
Tap apps.
Downstream, so. The question that you're asking is.
When
does
do we get our tap
permitted
fees?
mean They have paid their tap fees?
Yeah.
No. Permitted does not necessarily mean that they have paid their tap fees.
Can we somehow make it, they do have to pay their tap fees?
well, but yeah, then you're getting into that whole thing. You would have to then extend. You would have to extend that time frame because they could sit at that's the development level. They could have foundations up, sidewalks, water, sewer, and electrical just sitting there.
Well, that's my concern is they could be somehow, I mean, I don't know how permitting goes, but somehow they permitted 83 these units.
Here's what I'm trying to tell you, you can't, by the fact of permit, you can't get your occupancy. Without all this other stuff. We're putting a line in the sand. By talking about permits, that does put them on a timer.
permit, but. So this is my naive question. Infrastructure that's in there, so if it's not permitted and we're not serving it, are they actually hooked into our infrastructure at this point? Or if it had to go on to the other water district that would cover it? Is that piping, is everything, is it like in there independently and not part of our system?
Yeah, so remember, you have the authority to approve these drawings.
Right?
So the procedure is, the drawings are submitted to an engineer that works for us. We won't call him a district engineer anymore, an engineer that works for us. And then that engineer reviews it and makes sure it fulfills our rules and regs.
Mhm.
And then we present that drawing to the board and the board approves it. So some board approved these filings over time. So the only filing drawing that's out there in limbo is filing 21 and cover sheet sitting on my desk. Because it hasn't been approved by these gentlemen or.
So we have approved them hooking up to our system technically.
Yeah, so we'd have to go back and say, okay, these other filings were approved in some type of board meeting and some type of drawings. By our engineering standards, and the only one that we didn't approve was filing 21. And Metro Group hasn't. approved
So have
it.
we effectively accepted that even though it is not permitted?
Or do we have an obligation to property
That's what I'm
owners
asking.
or the developer?
Well,
That's all around the concept
Yeah,
of
it's all
the IGA.
permitted.
The IGA, that's for that time frame. They have from this time to this time to do this. That's what they proposed.
And probably, to answer your specific question, probably there are permits for filings 18, 19, and 20. There are certificates of availability signed by the district for filing 19. So you certainly have obligated yourself to provide service to those.
that's what I'm asking.
How many of those?
4 certificates of
Four.
availability. I don't know how many ETRs that's for. Filing 21, I think, is the most in limbo because it's even the filing hasn't been.
So then even technically, like using Jeff's definition, we may have actually potentially pre-approved these,
Yes.
whether permitted or not.
Well, I don't think they get to that point without there being permits.
Okay.
You have when you're in, if I'm understanding the IGA, it's a time frame contract. When we're inside of that contract, yeah, we have approved that. But now if we're outside of that contract, which will be January 15th, we are now, that's the negotiation. This is our negotiated point. that we are not going to add any additional capacity, permitted capacity beyond January 15th.
By the way, I'm noticing that Henderson's.
I know, but I don't. Lessons of the past, I don't necessarily always want to have a completely open meeting. It's not gone well. I know he's got his hand up, and I'm trying to not be not respectful to him, but.
I'm just wondering if he has some thoughts that might help. Okay.
I don't want to allow it, just from my own past experience in this stuff. But it's the board. You guys can make the decision. I'm just one of 5.
Yeah, you guys just stick to the basics. So let's stick to Dylan's 2 issues. Number one, these gentlemen are here because they're worried about the 5-year service agreement, 1 year to 5, that's it. And then you have plenty of time up until January to discuss the amount of responsibility we have given from the past on these other filings to what is still in limbo, like filing 21. You have till January, 15th or beyond, because you could write the IGA, say, okay, we're gonna provide this service here, but we're also gonna examine these other things within the next year. So that's their agenda is just that 5-year agreement, so.
And I don't think anybody is against that.
Yeah.
I'm not.
We really
Yeah,
appreciate
with that, you know where we're going with this. It's not the service side, or actually the length of the service side. It's about the capacity going beyond January 15th.
And unless you breach your agreement under the current IGA, you are reserving capacity for 1,700 EQRs or so until January 15th. It exists, the space exists. There's going to be any reduction in that reservation obligation is going to be excess capacity in your infrastructure.
And we're allowed to cut it off at January 15th.
Yes. There's a range there.
Correct.
I don't think it would be wise to cut off service to sewage flowing.
Well, no,
no,
we're not talking
Well,
that at all.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, is that your question is a little imprecise.
Right, well,
cut off-
I'm just worried that if we've agreed in advance.
Yeah.
And approved plans in advance, that we have basically provided an acceptance.
And you have, that is the argument. And I think,
Right.
that there, as you get further and further away from actually providing service on January 15th, the argument gets weaker and weaker that you have an obligation to serve.
Okay.
But it still exists until you get to they don't own the land, or wherever the far end of that continuum is. So somewhere in there is filings submitted and approved. Somewhere in there is permits provided by Jefferson County or
Right.
City of Lake. And somewhere in there is taps purchased. So where on that spectrum you cut that line, you make that hard line is what we're talking about.
So we can make a hard line,
Yes.
even if they have put infrastructure in. That's what
I wouldn't recommend it, because probably something there has received a certificate of availability of service, probably.
Well, that's my concern.
Yes, and mine too.
And we're digging up all those records and some of them.
Yeah.
We're digging up everything we can. We have records on this back to 2004.
I think everything did have that availability. I would agree. I would like to hear, I wouldn't mind hearing what Mr. Henderson has to say. I think technically we did already open it up to a kind of. an
I'm
open
fine. You're
discussion.
one of the people that doesn't like to allow.
I
that,
don't
so
like to allow, but we're kind of in
I'm
an
just trying to,
open.
it's no disrespect to John, because,
I
he's a
know.
friend of mine, but I'm not trying to show that type of favoritism. So it's up to the board if you want to allow.
I'd allow it.
Yeah.
Okay,
We did. allow.
unmute John Henderson. Sam, would you please?
Johnny, if you go ahead and unmute.
Hi, folks. First of all, happy holidays, and it's been a pleasure watching your meeting. It's been really a joy just to see you guys work. Honestly, I just had one quick comment. in the way the motion was stated, and I think it's pretty clear from the discussion that it's a little different, but by continuing the current IGA for 5 years, you would necessarily continue with the 1,700 taps that it provides. Clearly, you're talking about drawing a line in the sand, and that would be a different motion. So I just wanted to caution, it's, you know, you've got attorneys reading the details of what you say very, very closely on the other side. And I just wanted to clarify that you're not continuing the current motion, which provides 1,700 taps. You're allowing the service, which was explained by Mr. Woods, you're extending the service for 5 years before it needs to be renewed again. And you're eliminating any new taps beyond the permits that are in place January 15th is the way I heard it. So anyway, great to see you all. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, I have a question for all you two lawyers, is if instead of the language of saying renewing the IGA, what if we said we were entering into a brand new IGA, which would be to continue the service to Solterra?
As it's currently drafted, and as I presented it, it's an amended and restated IGA. So
We just make a new IGA?
you can title it whatever you want, but it doesn't change the content.
Well, if we did the new IGA,
It is a new IGA, whether, I mean, even if it was a renewal, it would still be a new IGA. That is, I believe, a distinction without a difference.
well, I think he's saying that the current IGA has that number 1757, whatever that number is. And if we had, and so anything that renews or extended, he's saying that number carries on. Where if we had a new IGA, we don't have that number.
That's what I'm stating. That's where basically you have this capacity in the original IGA of the 1,700 EQRs.
Right.
I believe the balance is around 450 or something like that, or I think that's what they think.
Yeah.
The delineation I'm saying, going past January 15th, that there is no more capacity. We have honored the original IGA, the capacity in that time frame of that IGA, and honoring that contract. Going forward, don't have a problem with extending the service side of that. That's not in question. That's not a problem. My only problem is around the reserve capacity that's not permitted. That's like, there's literally not some wheels in motion on it. We talked about that earlier tonight on a couple of these projects, right? There is a difference. And I'm trying to make sure that's really clear. What works best for you legally.
Yeah, it really doesn't make a difference to me if we just enter 2023 intergovernmental agreement for service to Fossil Ridge Metropolitan District, or if we enter into 2023 second amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for extraterritorial service.
Well, my impression was,
I understand the position, and none of the drafts that have been circulated include the original reservation capacity number. That's been revised in every single draft.
okay,
That went out, you sent
Okay.
that out, so.
okay, that's good.
So I have a motion on the floor. I didn't get a second.
Second.
So we have a second. Is that clear?
And it was sufficiently clear to me.
Okay. So now it's sufficiently clear for legal. So we have a second. Do we have discussion?
Please restate the motion one more time.
I motion to move forward with a 5-year service agreement. And the only extending of capacity beyond January 15th is for permitted only Jeffco Lakewood buildings. That's it. If you're not permitted or whatever, there is no future, because there's no more to that. We have lived up to the obligation of that contract around, especially the capacity thing. So I know these guys are concerned about service. We don't have an issue with that. It's about the capacity and us adding more capacity. We're dealing with this wildfire on this side. And we keep allowing it to go forward, I think is not being consistent. With the narrative that we have talked about now for 2.5 hours, pretty much. That,
Thank you.
I love it, but it made me think of something new. Okay, so can we vote on that?
is there any further discussion? Is that okay to approve this now?
Yeah,
It kind of helps them out.
yeah, I will make these changes and circulate it, and if accepted, we can get this taken up at the January meeting.
So just out of curiosity, if it is not accepted, does the agreement just terminate January 15th? Or would the service portion continue on and just not be?
Yeah, so
Right there.
if you don't have a negotiated agreement for service on January 15th, I'm going to recommend that you continue providing service.
Right, I understand that.
And I will advise you that you no longer have to reserve capacity beyond what is already in service. I anticipate that negotiations will continue then.
Well, your board's right over there, so they were just concerned about time of service.
Right,
And he wants us to hammer it out with them, so I would talk to them directly over there on your.
Well,
well,
you
but
just
they're
said-
not the developer. They're
No,
just the
but they
board.
are, the board sets I mean, they control that,
Not really.
yeah. They really do, just like we do. You know, you know what, they have to go through them to get done over there, just like on this side.
They might have some problems. But
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I will go for it. I have some legal concerns, but I can go with
Well,
that.
that's part of the negotiation, right? I'm proposing, that's what I want to propose.
these are 2 terms. It's, it's gonna be.
Right, I only, like I said, the service part is fine with me. The other part, I mean, I'm okay doing it that way. I just don't know what technically we've agreed to. And if Jeff's still digging up stuff that,
We've agreed to everything that's in the ground, everything but found in 21. We have agreed to all of that.
but is that part of what was the 700 or is that what 1700s?
It's the 450.
My understanding is that there was only ever going to be a maximum of 1367
1367.
or so.
I wonder if it would be helpful for your comfort level now to request from the developer what that number is and what it maxes out at. If filing 21, which is the last one, was approved, and I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of the numbers that Dylan just said, down in the 13 area. I don't want to, I mean, I think that would be a fair request from them, wouldn't you think, Terry?
I don't care. I don't, I mean, the frequency.
We've got a negotiating point right now, so.
Yeah, I mean, you can't unilaterally enter into this agreement, so their attorney's gonna get back to me, and if there are other issues that they want to raise, I'll bring those to the board.
Right, okay. Then are we ready to vote?
We're ready to vote. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we got 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passed. You got 5 years and
Thank you.
we're good on it. Yeah, and that was never our concern, trust me. You know, and if we gave you that impression, I apologize. So it was around the 1 year thing, is if we're dealing with this capacity thing and then we got this yo-yo thing going on, we need to be able to, would have to adjust that IGA if we're dealing with this extended reserve capacity while we're dealing with the problems on this side. So that's all that was.
Right, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Hope you feel
Very
better.
much.
You look like Todd did last week, like
He's hurt.
ready to die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need help?
Uh, You know, it's terrible to get to this point.
You got jacked everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry. Maybe in 5 years, the problem will start moving.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes the meeting. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for stopping in. So
I was not done on that topic. I'm sorry. I just wanted that motion to proceed so that I could have another topic
Yep.
on that same. What if the permit on filing 21 lapses?
that's on them.
So can we stipulate that if the permits lapse, that will not be subject to renewal under this contract?
That's what I'm trying to say. The extended capacity, I'm reserving the capacity that's permitted.
I understand.
If you fall outside of your permit, that's on you.
I would think so.
I think that would fall within. If their permits lapse and they have to renew them. And there's a request made to the district to renew its reservation of capacity under normal district rules and regulations. I think that you could reject that under your regular rules and regulations.
So there's no need to stipulate it we've had it before. I mean, that's kind of how this expo thing came in, right? You did it before, just slide it in again, so.
But I think we're trying to be, everything we're moving forward on here, we are consistent.
Well, you are consistent. You may
Well,
not
I
be here
will-
when it's
And
5 years.
that's what I was gonna say is you can't bind future boards. So you could say,
But this, under the terms of this for at least 5 years, it would say you couldn't, a lapsed permit would not be automatically accepted.
I could add that in.
You're right, it's probably not needed. I don't know.
You
that
know
it-
something I don't know?
Say what you were just, you said. I'm gonna
Yeah,
add
you're
it.
turned up. You can't.
But
stop
I'll
when
still be
you're-
on the planet, right?
Well,
Okay.
that's true.
You said I'm gonna add it in, what?
I can add in that a lapsed permit will not qualify for
Reserve.
reservation capacity.
Okay, it's okay. These are the rates.
And then we do have to approve these drawings, right? Like I'm remembering approving by 19.
13.1%.
We should have to approve 21.
Yeah.
So it will come to us it sounded kind of like they were saying that would get in before the time, but we do have that prerogative to say no.
Well, I mean, I'm very concerned when they try to jam it in everything before January 15th or whatever. And it's like, I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. But it's like, what can they do to sort of jam things in, but then do it after January? And like, what sort of game can they play that I'm?
Everything starts on a timer. You know, the thing is, can you do that? Yes. First off, permitting costs you, and you go on a timer. You don't get to just run out. I mean, you know, Todd works in this world, Jeff, and you know, it's been a long time since I've done it, but you only get like 30 days, 60 days, 120 days. You are on a timer.
Oh, you don't get a year?
Maybe, I don't know.
Depends what point you're starting from.
There are things that people can get permitted, but that gets way deeper into the whole process, and that raises the cost of that process, by the way. That's not like some little cheap thing you roll the dice on. You're talking about a heavy roll with dollars behind it when you permit something.
Okay.
Am I signing something?
Yeah, those
Well,
are,
both of those.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. Those are just what we talked about, which the rate increases per 1,000 gallons and the 13.1% tap fee increases.
I don't have anything specific to add to the 1078 South Alkire for legal matters that I didn't already address and came up previously.
So do we even need an executive session?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can give you a general litigation update. I sent you an email on Friday with the litigation documents. The federal litigation has been dismissed as well. The motion to dismiss as to the district and to the directors named in their individual and official capacities and Mr. Henderson has been granted. There's time yet to amend that. I don't have any insight into whether that's going to be amended. And oral argument has been set in the Big Sky appellate litigation for February 16th at 1 p.m. I plan to attend. And there's,
And that's still gets work.
Gessler will be presenting that, yes, yeah, Scott. Or Jeff, his partner, I assume probably Jeff, will not be doing it. And the Young versus Green Mountain, like I said in my email, there have been some discovery requests made of the district. I got a copy of the
Interrogatory is my.
request for production and request for admission. And they, I received the initial batch of responses today. I'm not handling that, but I asked for preservation of privilege purposes to review it before it goes out. So insurance counsel is going to be turning those over. I will also be working with them. There are some, moving on from that, there are some administrative things that occur every year. So you do a transparency notice. Yeah.
Read you got your SDA thing. There is a whole bunch of stuff that happens in January that, we've got an election coming up this year, so we've got all kinds of notifications.
I actually don't get that magazine. Well, actually, I do get it. Thank you.
Once a year.
Once a year, yeah. You want it back or this one back?
You can hold on to it. I trust Jeff that I was just I was gonna kind of mention that there is a flurry of stuff we have to do and sign documents in January, and we have an election.
Well, you usually have to do like a place noted where your notices are gonna be placed.
There's all kinds of stuff. There's probably like a dozen things. Plus, we have an election coming up this year, and we have to put notification on that. And probably designate a DEO again and the election official. So those are the things we're gonna probably see in January, just kind of giving you guys a heads up, so.
Yeah, you're allowed to do them in the December meeting, but it's December, like November 15th to January 15th, you have to do all these things. So Jeff will be busy the first couple weeks of January putting those together.
Yeah, but Roger, did you get that SDA magazine?
No, I did not.
Can you share with? Who does?
I don't know. I get their notices.
Am I the only one that gets it?
I don't get it.
I don't think I get the hard copy anymore, actually.
Jeff? did
I
you-
get all the email. Yeah, so everything's emailed to me from SDA and plus Dylan's a paralegal, really.
I've never done
You
it.
put the special.
Yeah.
They hand it out on the short
It's
bus.
special to us.
Yeah,
Well-
Dana at my office sends out a interview reminder to all of our.
I have the procedure on my desk.
So what directors would like a subscription to that? Because although I'm not, there's a lot of useful things in there. Not all of it, but what magazine is. But, you know, Could you look at maybe getting some subscriptions for, to include Dylan?
No,
no?
our firm is a member. I
Okay.
don't get it in hard copy because I get it electronically.
Yeah,
Well, if it comes as an email, that's just as easy to me.
I can send out any email from SDA and I'll check in the.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. Email's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
I prefer paper if possible.
Yeah.
I just got one.
okay. All right, Dylan, any further legal stuff? No? All right, I'm gonna close agenda item 11, move to agenda item 12 for new business notifications for the next board meeting. So I want to add in the Thursday, we need to post an application for this Thursday for the exposition bid down selection. So we will need everybody here, should be in theory, fast and furious thing. I would
Please, to
recommend.
God.
I would recommend directors do your homework, look at the bids. If you have questions,
What do you mean, look at the bid? I don't have the bids.
They'll be emailed to you.
he's going to email them. I would encourage you, if you have questions, do as much questioning to Jeff as possible.
Please don't let this go from 6 to 11:30.
Yes,
Or I will slit my throat.
live on TV.
I'm just telling you, I want none of you to put anything on there that goes that long.
So
He
I will
means
be,
it.
I will be here, but is it possible to attend these by Zoom in the
Yes.
future? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, for a 10-minute meeting, yeah, I just,
Yep, not a problem. Just make sure you check in with Sam or Jesse, make sure they're, sometimes there's connectivity issues, just make sure you're ready to go at 6 p.m. Other than that, we need to add the meeting for, the bid down selection, 6 p.m. So we need to post that, Jeff, and then, putting on for the Kaizen event for the 31st of January. And more to come on that. Other than that, does anyone else have anything to add? All right, I motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second,
We have a second discussion.
Well, I got a few
you
questions.
probably do.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I cannot believe motion passes, meetings adjourned. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year and holidays to everybody.
Oh, wait, you can
Can't
still
say
believe
we
that 2
got out
days
of here
from now.
this quick with this much stuff.
Maybe.